Chiefs Kingdom has started its own history class, because for the first time in 6,944 days, there is a back-to-back Super Bowl champion, and it is the Kansas City Chiefs.
The Kansas City Chiefs win their third Super Bowl in 5 years. Patrick Mahomes gets his third Super Bowl MVP as the Kansas City Chiefs take down the San Francisco 49ers 25-22 last night. Willie, D-Mace, how we doing? Happy Monday.
Happy Monday.
Happy first official day of the offseason.
Yeah, first official day of no football.
Look ahead to 2025.
Yes, so right now, every team has a chance at this particular moment.
Telling me there's
the Titans have a chance to win the Super Bowl next year. So, hell, in my book, Titans are the best team in the National Football League right now.
Why not?
Undefeated.
Yeah, they're undefeated.
Go, team, go.
No, but I'm doing good other than the weather. But you would expect that this time of year in Nashville. So
I'm always happy when there's a good game.
Yeah.
That was a good game. That was a fun Super Bowl. When you look back, you won't be like, oh, I don't remember much about that one. Like that, you'll remember.
Yeah.
That one went to overtime.
Okay,
it was a good game.
In games like this, because this is how I looked at it, and I'm watching it because we're always watching for a game where there's just a bunch of mistakes, and there's always somebody to blame. Like you blame, like in this loss, you got to blame this person. You got to blame this person. But I looked at that game, and I'm like, other than because both teams had turnovers, but I'm looking at the game and like, there's nobody that I can sit here and definitively blame. Now we can conjure up blame like they have been all morning, but I'm looking at that game like, you know what? That's how a game needs to be played. Like, that was a hard-fought game. It was just a game that I walk away from it. I can't sit here and say, well, it's because of that person that they lost the game or that coach. No, both teams played well, and I think both coaches ultimately did enough to win a ball game.
And I did there for a minute. I got a little bit nervous. I thought, oh no, is this another Rams-Patriots 2018 rematch? The final score was 13-3, and there was no offense, and it was truly very incredibly boring. That's not what we got. It ended up being a really great game, and I was actually very shocked to hear that so few Super Bowls end in overtimes. I never really thought about it. You just think, in theory, the two best teams in the league, if there's so much parity, more games, more Super Bowls should go into overtime. You should think that. So I think the fact that we got overtime with that quarterback in Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes and that stacked roster in San Francisco, it really did feel like we got a great gift from two really good teams that, frankly, made their fair share of mistakes. You know, the blocked extra point from San Francisco, the fumble in the goal line of the first possession from Christian McCaffrey. Isaiah Pacheco had his fair share of drops. Patrick Mahomes had his interception. With as many mistakes as there was really just good football, good defenses being played yesterday. But D-Mace, I'm glad that you bring up blame. Because blame is an inherent part of sports.
Exactly.
It's an inherent part of life. You win, you lose, you have someone to credit, you have someone to blame. And I think the big storyline of the day is, of course, going to be Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and the Chiefs and their dynasty. And, you know, has Patrick Mahomes reached GOAT status, Tom Brady status? Are the Kansas City Chiefs going anywhere? Of course, that's probably the headline on Get Up and First Take and all of these shows. And we're going to get into that, of course, because that's a big part of today. But I think that the second part of it, maybe even just as big of a storyline, is the blame. And can you place that blame on Kyle Shanahan? Because I think Kyle Shanahan's starting to become maybe the modern poster child of always a bridesmaid and never a bride. When you get to the Super Bowl twice as a head coach and lose both
He's
times.
He's turned into Marv Levy, huh?
He's turned into maybe what we saw Andy Reid before Andy Reid went on this run in Kansas City. And, of course, you add on his time in Atlanta when he was the offensive coordinator of the infamous 28-3 game. That Kyle Shanahan, I thought the 49ers were playing like the better team for a majority of that game yesterday. Take it to overtime. 49ers win the coin toss. Kyle Shanahan elects to receive. Do we think that cost the 49ers the Super Bowl?
No. I mean, listen, people are going to make the argument that he should have deferred and took the ball sack. And I get that premise. I really do. I get the premise. The whole thing now is you get a fourth down. You get a fourth down. So everybody's running with the four. You get Mahomes 4 plays. Everybody's running with the 4 plays. My thing is this. Football comes down to what? Executing and stopping. That's basic football. Football 101. Execute your plays and stop the other team from executing their plays if you're on defense. San Fran didn't stop Kansas City from executing their plays in overtime. Whether they took the ball now, again, we can have an argument or a discussion about whether Shanahan should have kicked it off or not or whatnot. Yes, we can have that one, and we will. But ultimately, to me, because there were no mistakes made in the overtime by either team, you either stop us or you don't. San Fran came down. They kicked the field goal. Kansas City stopped them on 3rd and whatever. Now, you can probably, go to Shanahan and say, well, maybe you should have picked another play. I don't know. But they did what they were supposed to do, Kansas City, and made San Fran kick a field goal. San Fran, on the other end, didn't do what they were supposed to do in stopping Kansas City. They had them in 4th and 1. They didn't stop them. They got them to a 4th down. They didn't stop them. My thing is, it comes down to stopping and executing. You didn't stop the Kansas City Chiefs when you needed to stop them, whether you got the ball first or second. The way that game was going, it didn't seem like you were stopping Kansas City with doing what they. So if you had scored a touchdown, Kansas City would have just came back and scored a touchdown, and we would have won in overtime again. So to me, I don't blame Shanahan for doing what he did. Your team just didn't step up from a defensive standpoint and stop Kansas City when they needed to. Kansas City stepped up and stopped you. It made you kick a field goal.
The game's about as close as a game can be.
Exactly.
When it goes to overtime and it's decided like that, we're talking about as close as a game can possibly be. So you can't blame anybody for the loss. So I'm not in that camp at all. I do think it's a really interesting debate, and that's why I think it's a great debate, is that there is no easy answer. It's not like, you stupid idiot, why could you possibly do this when you could have done that? It's not like that. But I do think it's a really interesting debate to have.
The narrative
is what to do when you win
right
the cause. I know, and that's dumb. That's just dumb way of thinking, right? The game, it's not that simple, right? But I like the discussion.
Exactly.
And we're going to have the discussion of what to do when you win the coin toss. Because most of the time, when we've watched football our whole lives, the team that wins with the toss takes the ball in overtime. It's not even a discussion.
Because
I've always thought
traditionally you score, it's over. You win.
That's
Game
how
over.
it
You don't
was
get the
for
ball.
decades. It was for decades. But now it's different. And now we have a brand new rule. So now there's more to think about. So when it first happened, I was thinking, did they really think this through? This is the first time this has happened. And I'm thinking of a college overtime where it's very common. You almost never see that if you win the toss, you're taking offense second, right? Because you know what you've got to have to do. If your defense holds and all you got to do is kick a field goal, that completely changes the scenario. So with that mindset, I was thinking, man, they should have kicked off, right? And the only thing that gave me pause at the time, I'm thinking, well, the defense was just out there, and they have to go right back out there, and that probably was something to consider. But still, I think I'm going to – but the thing that caught my attention, which I didn't think about, and obviously Shanahan did. His answer was ready after the game. And he said, we discussed it, our analytics team, there's that word again, and he said, we considered a lot of things, and we thought that we wanted the ball third. In other words, we would have the first – if you take the ball – and it's even after the first 2 possessions. Each team is guaranteed to get the ball no matter what happens. If the game goes on after that, in theory, we get the ball in the first possession that either team has where it's score and win. That was something I honestly had not considered. And so that's why I think it's almost you might have 10 people in a room and you might argue and it'll be 5-5 or 6-4 on what you should do. I don't think it's 10-0. They should have taken the ball. Like I think I would have kicked off if it was up to me. But after Shanahan played that card of, well, if the game goes beyond 2 possessions, which it easily could have, we get the first chance with the ball to win the game, even on a field goal. So that's a good point that he made that I hadn't considered. So to blame somebody for that decision, no.
I just don't understand why you wouldn't defer in this overtime structure. When it's the previous structure in the regular season structure of you get the ball, whoever scores first wins, game over. I get that. You want to take the ball. But in this structure, which both teams get an opportunity to score, I don't know why you don't defer, because I don't know why you wouldn't want to know exactly what you need. Because let's say, for example, and Chris Jones talked about this after the game, Kansas City Chiefs. He said, we decided last week, over the last 2 weeks, this is a scenario that we were going over, that if the 49ers got the ball first and they scored a touchdown, they put 7 up on the board, then we were going to go for 2. So you have the advantage when you get the ball second of knowing exactly what you need. Because let's say roles were reversed. Kansas City gets the ball first, Kansas City scores a touchdown. Then let's say that the 49ers were in the exact same position at 4th and 4? Mm-hmm. Well, then the 49ers would have gone for it because they would have known that they needed to score a touchdown. In this instance, they got the ball first. It was 4th and 4. They just elected to take the points and go ahead and kick a field goal. But the reason why I think Kyle Shanahan made a mistake, I don't think that there is a blanket statement to say, you always defer, you always receive, because of course every instance is different. But in this instance, when Kyle Shanahan elected to receive and they kicked a field goal, he gave Patrick Mahomes all the power. And that's a really dangerous place to be in. To say, we're going to go ahead and kick a field goal. Patrick Mahomes, you take the ball, Super Bowl on the line, and what they need to do, all they need to do is find the end zone and score. I think that's a really dangerous position to be in. I understand the idea of we want the ball third, not about first or second. We want it third. But that's also pretty risky to put all of your eggs in a basket of something that you're not guaranteed. You are guaranteed 1 possession. You're not guaranteed 2.
Right, but if let's say let's say you kick off, right? As we say, as I would have done. Like I'm with you. I would have kicked off because then I subscribe to. Then I know what I've got to do. Right. And all of that stuff. But it's possible that you could have held them to a field goal first, and then you go down and your strategy is completely different. When you say all he's got to do is score a touchdown, that's still hard to score a touchdown.
Of course, and against that Chiefs defense, but you don't have to go for 2.
No, you don't have to go for 2. That's a choice when you go second. But I will say this, for the strategy, they kicked the field goal. And I'm thinking at 4th and 4 from the 5, that's borderline. If it's 4th and 2, or if, as a lot of people point out, if they run it on 3rd and 4, and they say, okay, we're going to run it twice. Let's say run
Was
McCaffrey.
That 3rd and 4, the one that was open to Juwan Jennings in the end zone.
Yeah, the one. No,
that was 3rd. That was 3rd and 4.
That was 3rd and 4.
Yeah, where Chris Jones came in unblocked.
Ayuk was open in the end zone, but he was going to Jennings, who was open also.
Who was open, but Chris Jones got all up in his face, and he had to just throw it away. Okay, that was the third down play.
So if you run it there and decide, okay, I'm going to go for it on 4th down, then maybe you're thinking touchdown, and you really put the screws, you really put the pressure on Mahomes. And they couldn't quite get there. But they got the field goal. And I'll ask this question, because you said it comes down to execution. The strategy didn't look bad when Valdez-Scantling ran backwards, and it was 2nd and 14. They had the opportunity, they had a chance, and that's so. In the hindsight, we're like, well, Patrick Mahomes, he was going to score, but in the moment, you have an opportunity, and they had an opportunity when it's 2nd and 14, and then 3rd and 6, even 4th and 1. They had chances to do it. They just couldn't make one more play.
And that's what I mean. Football comes down to executing. That's all. You put Kansas City in a situation where it's 2nd and 14, okay? You go in which to me, I think the mistake was this. 3rd and 14 and you play zone. You play a loose zone versus Mahomes.
Against Patrick freaking Mahomes.
I did that. That's the part that, and I understand, it's easier said than done. But when you basically, and you're watching a game, even before the snap, and guys are 4 and 5 yards off the ball, like, you're basically saying, here, Patrick, take the 5, the easy 5, and again, take the easy 5, and hopefully we'll come up and tackle you. You can't do that to quarterbacks that are that good. Hell, you can't do that to Brock Purdy if he can see it. You basically said, hey, listen, we're in zone defense. We're going to give you everything underneath. This is not a situation where, you're up 8 points or 10 points so we can play this prevent defense. You're going against one of the best quarterbacks in the ever to get under the center and the best quarterback in the National Football League right now. You're going up against him and the best play caller this generation has seen. Mm-hmm. What is generation, 20 years somewhere? Yeah, 20 years, I think. So it's the best play caller this generation has seen. And you go into zone defense and you're only up 3 points, you don't do that. You don't do that. Willie was right. It's 2nd and 16 or 14 right now. Get up in their face. When you were getting up in Kelsey's face all game, you neutralized him. Mm-hmm. He couldn't do anything. Why? Not because he's not a great player, because you was in his grill, pushing him around, made it difficult for him. And then all of a sudden, you go into zone defense in overtime and just let him dink and dunk you down the field. That's the mistake that I would point at more so than Shanahan not taking the ball, even though, again, we're going to have that conversation. Shanahan not taking the ball or deferring the ball or taking the ball. No. Look at what San Fran did on defense in overtime. They basically said, here, we're playing zone defense majority of the time. Here, Patrick, take it.
It felt like to me the 49ers played in overtime to not lose, not to win. They were aggressive.
Defensively, I agree with that, I think.
They were aggressive all game long. Like you said, they were in Travis Kelce's face. Really, the first few Chiefs possessions, they couldn't get anything moving.
No.
I mean, I didn't look at the actual stats, but coming out of the first quarter, I said, do the Chiefs even have 20 yards? Like, that's what it felt like to me, that they simply could not get anything moving. And I thought, credit to the 49ers, that Nick Bosa and Chase Young, they stepped up. They were looking like the MVPs for a good bit of that game. But in overtime, I felt like they lost it. I felt like the 49ers, I felt like they were playing to not lose. And you say, D-Mace, that football is all about execution, 100%, 1,000%. I also think in that situation, it's acknowledging not just what you have, but what you're going up against. And I don't think that San Francisco approached those decisions, whether it was how they played defensively in overtime or was it electing to receive the ball. I don't think there was enough understanding of, we've got Patrick Mahomes on the other sideline, that he is Superman, that he can do Superman things. And he did Superman things. And I think giving him the control and not putting that kind of pressure on him that they should have, that's what cost them the game in overtime. And there were so many other mistakes that you could look at. The muffed punt, the fumble at the goal line from Christian McCaffrey, the blocked extra point, so many mistakes that led up to that point that you could say that changed the trajectory of the game. Because how important was that extra point? My goodness.
Well, it
but
changed
looking
everything.
at overtime,
The game would have unfolded completely different.
Kansas City wouldn't have kicked a field goal. They would have had to score there.
But
100%.
they wouldn't have won in overtime. That game wouldn't have went into overtime had they made that
so
extra.
The strategies would have changed from that point on.
I think the 49ers, they lost it in overtime because it was not a good overtime strategy. I do not think. And when I hear both sides, Chris Jones talking about how they talked about overtime for 2 weeks. They had a plan for 2 weeks about what their overtime was. And we got Kyle Juszczyk on the other side saying, I didn't even know what the overtime rules were. The Chiefs were more prepared in overtime. They knew what they wanted to do, whereas I feel like the 49ers, that's how they lost.
Well, even if, because my thing is, both players on both sides, half of them don't, but 99.9% of them don't know all the rules that goes on in the National Football League. Hell, we ran into this last Super Bowl or the Super Bowl before that, where guys didn't realize there was a rule for something and it ended up being a big thing.
There's a lot of weird rules in football.
That's what I'm saying. To me, as the players knowing the rules, that's one thing. And you can jump on the players and you can say, well, you want honesty from the players, but then when you get the honesty, you say, well, why didn't you know that?
And that's not Kyle Juszczyk's fault. I put that on Kyle Shanahan.
That's what I'm saying.
But Kyle Shanahan was prepared. He went through the whole process. They talked about it. He had an analytics team that was helping, and he explained why they took the ball. Now,
that has nothing to do with the players.
That's got nothing to do with Kyle Juszczyk.
Yeah.
But so they were prepared to make that decision. I didn't agree with the decision. I think I would have kicked off if it were me. Mm-hmm. But when he gave his explanation, I'm thinking, well, it's not like they just were caught off guard by these were new rules. Mm-hmm. Like, they went through it. They talked about it, and his overriding factor was we want the ball third, in theory. If each team has the ball and it's still tied, then we get the first chance to win the game with the next score. Mm-hmm. That made sense to me, even though I respectfully disagree with what they did there. I don't care what the. Yeah, I mean, that's fine. We can disagree, but it's a logical thing where you can't say that doesn't make any sense.
Because I guarantee you, there are guys on the Chiefs side that didn't know that same rule.
Yeah,
they exist.
Yeah, you don't ask Kyle Juszczyk. What do you think, Kyle? Do you think we should do?
Exactly, but you don't asking Kyle Shanahan about the rules and him saying he didn't know it. Now that's the problem.
That would be a problem. Kyle Shanahan, Kyle Juszczyk.
Exactly. Kyle Juszczyk. Yeah. It's like, okay, man, there's so many, and then the rules change once you get in the playoffs. I'm not like, listen, unless the coach mentions it, which again it falls on the coach. Mm-hmm. Unless the coach mentions it and drills it in our head, I don't know that the rules change once we get into the playoffs in regards to overtime. That's not. There are a bunch of rules in the National Football League. I know you're supposed to know every rule, but you're not supposed to know every rule as a player.
But there are some times that I'm like, I didn't know that.
Exactly.
It's interesting. I did not know that was a rule.
I didn't know that the overtime had changed. I
didn't know the overtime had changed
until they mentioned it.
The Buffalo-Kansas City game, I guess it was the divisional round of the playoffs 2 years ago. And it was overtime. Yeah, the Chiefs score.
They went and scored.
Buffalo doesn't get an opportunity to get the ball, so that's when the rule changed.
Everybody got to have a chance at winning. We're a country of,
can't stop them.
Hey, listen, you get a participation trophy. Don't worry about it. If they score first, don't worry. Even though they're the better team, don't worry. You're going to get another shot, little Johnny. Don't worry, even though you're not going to score, little Johnny. We got to make you feel good. That's what we're at a place of just make everybody feel good.
So I'm going to guess you don't like this rule change.
I don't. Like football should be like sudden death. Like either you make it, you don't see basketball saying, "Oh, they just hit a 3-pointer with no seconds." So since they got the ball last, then they got a shot to get a 3-pointer too. No, it don't work like that. Either you stop a team from scoring or you don't.
Play defense.
That's just me.
Whether you like the rule or not, it clearly did not work in the 49ers' favor yesterday. And I vehemently disagree with Kyle Shanahan's decision to receive. And I think that we're going to talk a lot about legacy today, about reputation, about, the legacy of Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and the Kansas City Chiefs. But what does yesterday do for maybe the legacy or the reputation of Kyle Shanahan? Because I think we're going to have to start having some conversations about old Kyle Shanahan and his ability to win big games. And we'll get into that coming up next. And, of course, your thoughts as well. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Caroline, Billy D. Mace. We're brought to you by Zen Sports. Start earning cash rewards on your bets today. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and in Tennessee to bet.
Hey, let's tell you about F&M Bank. Yes, we took it to the bank. We'll have to go back through and keep score. I didn't have the best Super Bowl that I was hoping for, but I got some points on the board. But that's something we do every Friday thanks to our friends at F&M Bank. We take it to the bank. And F&M Bank has a motto that they'd like you to keep in the back of your mind at all times, and that is banking made easy on purpose. That's why you should bank with F&M Bank. And it doesn't matter where you are in your financial situation. Maybe you're young, you're just starting your own checking account for the first time. You're getting off your mom and dad's payroll, and you need to learn about these things. Well, they want to make it simple for you. Maybe you're in that next stage of owning your own business. It's like having another member in your family. So you need somebody that really cares about you. The decisions are made locally at F&M Bank, and your business means more to them. So that's why you should bank with them. All things considered, It's banking made easy on purpose. F&M Bank is there for you. They'll treat your business like family. So find the nearest location to you. myfmbank.com. Very simple. myfmbank.com. There are 20 locations in our listening area, so there's one near you no matter where you're listening right now. Visit myfmbank.com. Equal housing lender, member FDIC.
It's just something we talked about with, that none of us have a ton of experience of it, but we went through all the analytics and talked with those guys, and we just thought it'd be better. We wanted the ball third. If both teams matched and scored, we wanted to be the ones who had the chance to go win, and we got that field goal, so we knew we had to hold them to at least to a field goal, and if we did, then we felt it was in our hands after that.
That was 49ers head coach Kyle Shanahan. The reason why they elected to receive the ball in overtime. Now, 49ers get the ball first. The Chiefs get a stop on third down, even though Jawan Jennings was wide open in the end zone, was prepped and ready to have the game of his life, potentially be Super Bowl MVP. Chris Jones breaks up the play, gets in Brock Purdy's face. He throws the ball away. The 49ers eventually kick a field goal. The Chiefs get the ball back, and Patrick Mahomes does Patrick Mahomes things. They find the end zone, and that seals the deal. The Kansas City Chiefs are your Super Bowl champions. When Kyle Shanahan rationalizes that decision, say, hey, we want the ball third. Now, we get the ball, the Chiefs get the ball. Ideally, in theory, game's tied. You send it to second overtime. Second overtime is sudden death. Mm-hmm. So whoever scores first wins. Game over. It's like regular season overtime rules. I disagree with that because you are not guaranteed double overtime. You are not guaranteed a third possession. What you are guaranteed is right here, right now. And I look at it like I want the ball second because I want you to take the ball. I want you to do whatever you're going to do, and then I can respond accordingly. You kick a field goal, I'll score a touchdown. You score a touchdown, I'll go for two. You could say the same thing.
Do you think they would have gone for two?
If
there's another huge decision.
Which is another huge discussion because Chris Jones mentioned that's what they had been talking about all week long. If we get the ball second and the 49ers score a touchdown, put 7 on the board, then we'll go for 2 and go ahead and end it there. But if you get the ball second, I would go for 2 because then you send it to sudden death. And it's not guaranteed that you're going to get another possession.
Well, that's where having the ball third becomes the big thing, right? If you
But
kick
you're not guaranteed that.
Yeah.
If I'm Kyle Shanahan, I look at it like, look, if we send it to sudden death, then so be it. Then we put the ball in the Chiefs' court in sudden death, and that's a really tough place to be. But also, you put the ball in Patrick Mahomes' court with the game on the line. He's Patrick Mahomes. I don't want to put myself in that position.
And I think that's probably the hard part about the statistical analysis. I took one math class at Vanderbilt called Probability and Statistics, and I was thinking, well, this is great, man. I'll talk about batting average and points per game and 3-point shooting percentage. This is great. I got a C- in the class, and I was happy with the C-. It's like, man, this is hard. This stuff is hard. But I'm sure the mathematicians spent a lot of time doing all those different probability outcomes and saying our best percentage chance is the way he laid it out. That if it's matched after 2 possessions, we'll have an advantage because then we have the first crack at winning it on the next score. That's very sound, but that doesn't, I don't think, consider Patrick Mahomes, right? I think that's probably the hard part about being the coach because the math people can tell you this, but then the coach has to be the one that's in his heart feeling to go, okay, is that right? And then that whole wild card of the 2-point scenario for the team, like if you give up a touchdown and then you score a touchdown, do you go for 2 right there?
Yeah,
like if the 49ers had scored and kicked the extra point on the first possession, let's say Chris Jones is in the face of Brock Purdy, but he makes a great throw to Juwan Jennings, and now they score 7. They're up 7. Kansas City has the exact same drive, scores a touchdown. Do they go for 2 right there?
They said they did.
They said they were going to,
They
right?
said they were going to.
That's easy to say.
And I probably would. Honestly, I probably would.
Just go for it right there. Can you imagine the drama if that was it? One play for the Super Bowl.
A 2-point conversion for the Super Bowl. I mean, look, it's very risky. I think it's riskier to do what Kyle Shanahan did because, to me, you take all of your control out of overtime because you give up the control to the Kansas City Chiefs, that they now get to make their decision based off of what you did. And if, let's say, it played out like the 49ers scored, they're up 7, the Chiefs go for 2, and the Chiefs don't make the 2-point conversion, if I'm a Chiefs fan, like, I can live with that. Yeah. I can live with the risk of going for it and ending it right there and not giving the 49ers the ball back.
Nope. Nope. That wouldn't be the people will always go back to you should have just kicked the field goal and tied the game.
I'm saying how I would react.
And just let it play out and trust that your defense, they have been playing well, trust that your defense could stop them. We can go back and forth about this. San Fran made the decision that they felt they needed to make. If I am going to operate under the premise of executing and stopping, then I think they made the right decision. You execute your offense, which they did up until they got to the 4-yard line. Now, we can sort of question, the play calling at that point, But, they didn't execute. Kansas City stopped them. Whatever check should have been made or shouldn't have been made, because Chris Jones shouldn't have came through the gap so easy. He was unblocked.
Yeah, the fact that he went unblocked
that's the one guy. That's like saying
football malpractice.
Yeah, that's like saying, we're going to sit here and got Aaron Donald or Jeffrey Simmons right in front of me, and we're going to block everybody else except those two guys. Say that again. Repeat that to me once again.
You make it easy.
We're going to block everybody except that all-pro game record right there. And that's what happened. Like, you blocked everybody.
On third down?
Even if I mess up, I know I'm not messing up on him. Uh-huh. And that's what they did. So I can question the play call right then and there, or the play calling that series. But I'm not going to. Again, I come from a premise of execute and stop people from executing. That's what basic football is. That's what sports is, period. You execute whatever you're doing, and you stop the other team from executing whatever they're trying to do. So to me, I understand what everybody's saying. I get it. We can have that, and we can go back and forth, and it can be a good debate, and I may even come to the other side for a second. We can have that conversation because it's a good conversation to have. But to me, what it boiled down to is that San Fran didn't execute their offense the way that they should have that last drive. Mm-hmm. And I say that because Chris Jones comes straight up the gap. It's not like he did a twist or loop or he was standing up and then end up just coming in. No, he was right there on the guard, and nobody blocked him.
Yeah,
nobody.
That was bad.
Yeah, that's like execute your blocking assignment. That's what you need to do, and you didn't do it, which caused Brock Purdy to have to get the ball away a little bit sooner.
That's why I think we're being a little harsh on Shanahan if we're saying he can't. If we're going to give him the tag, can't win the big one. But he's
been in it 2 other times.
It goes with the territory. Just when you've been there so many times, you've been so close and haven't gotten it. But another part of the equation too, to me, it's one thing to say Mahomes isn't going to screw up. Because I think that's a fair thing. Like Mahomes isn't going to beat himself, right? He is going to put them in position. But I go back to, in the decision, they kicked the field goal after decided they want the ball first, and everybody's like, "Well, you can't let Mahomes do that." They had some windows there. The second and 14, and I'm thinking, is there one play where the pedestrian receiving core of the Chiefs will crack one time? They'll drop one ball, or you get a tip ball. Like there are things that Mahomes can't control, right? He could put a nice pass in there to Valdez-Scantling. Like he made the one mistake that almost cost him, right? He should have slid down and realized, okay, let me just take the 5 yards here. It's first down, right? Instead, he tries to get up. He runs back and he lost like 8 or 9 yards. They go way back. That could have gotten a beat. Did you see who was it Jones that jumped off the bench? One of the defensive linemen jumped off the bench. It's like, what are you doing? Did you see on the Chiefs sideline? And everybody was probably thinking the same thing. Like, oh, did that just lose the Super Bowl for us? And then all it would have taken was one more play where one of those guys, and all year long, right? That was the knock on the Chiefs is, hey, they don't have the big name guys anymore, and they got a bunch of guys that have only caught 20-something passes. They drop a lot of balls. I mean, I can see the 49ers saying, well, maybe they'll drop one. If we have a good defense, maybe our defense makes a big play. Maybe Joey Bosa gets loose and tips a ball, or we tackle Mahomes one time.
Even in that play by Valdez-Scantling, it's hard to criticize him even in that play because, again, what are we taught? If you're not down, try to get yardage. Keep going.
But maybe don't run the other way.
He got slung back, and his momentum was going back, and he's trying to gather himself again. That's why when people look at you're looking at an isolated moment where you can see, but the player's understanding something totally different.
Right. It's not as easy as it looks.
That's why you got to understand when you're in. That's why I can speak on that. When you're in situations like that, you're not looking to, I get thrown back. Now I'm looking to get down.
Yeah.
That's not, I'm still up. I still can run. So I'm trying to make a play. I'm trying to continue the play. It's not like it's 2 seconds left in the game where, okay, I need to get down. Now because I know the situation. So if it's like 10 seconds left, I know that happens. I got to get down quick so we can call a timeout so I can, at least save some time. But in a situation like that, it's like every player is taught, if you're not down, get yardage. He wasn't down. He was thrown backwards. He's trying to gather himself, and then he tries to go. But there's so many people around. It's like, okay, now it's end up being a 6 or 7 yard loss. Mm-hmm. You can't get on. You really can't fault him for that in a sense. At least I can. At least I'm not going to fault Vidal Scantling for that because it's a playoff. I mean, it's a football act. He wasn't down. So what did he think? Let me try to get some yardage. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to get any. He lost more than he got.
I want to get right into your thoughts on this coming up next. Did Kyle Shanahan cost the 49ers the Super Bowl by electing to receive in overtime? And do you now view Kyle Shanahan a little bit differently? 0-2 in the Super Bowl, 0-2 against Patrick Mahomes as a head coach, and let's not forget, OC in Atlanta in the 28-3 Super Bowl. We'll get into your phones and thoughts on this coming up next. Tune in to 94.9 The Fan tomorrow night as Vandy men's basketball takes on Texas A&M at home. Pre-game at 5:30 p.m., tip-off at 6 o'clock, with coverage also available on the 94.9 The Fan app and at 949thefan.com.
Hey, Nick. This time of year, people, we reflect on the past and make plans for the year ahead. If you made a resolution to lose weight this year and you diet and exercise but still struggle to lose the pounds, it could be that your hormones are deficient. This is Derek Mason, former NFL player, and I'm here to tell you about Cool Springs MD. Their experienced doctors specialize in identifying which of your hormones need to be balanced and provide a tailored solution designed just for you. Nobody else. Hormone deficiencies can also cause more problems than just weight loss, okay? You may experience mood swings, fatigue, and a decreased sex drive. Hormone replacement therapy or HRT can help. Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and his team understands it's a frustrating cycle and want to help you be the best you this year. There's no better time now to achieve that best you and that healthy lifestyle. What are you waiting for? Give Cool Springs MD a call today for an appointment. Here's the number, 615-486-3458. That's 615-486-3458. Or visit their website at coolspringsmd.com. Don't let imbalanced hormones hinder your resolution. Give Cool Springs MD a call to take control of your health with HRT at Cool Springs MD.
Obviously, we're hurting. Our team's hurting, but that's how it goes when you put yourself out there. I'm real proud of our guys for no regrets with our team. I thought our guys played so hard today. Not everything was perfect by no means, but I'm going to lose with a group of guys. It's do with those guys anytime. And we'll take some time. We'll get over this and come back next year ready to go.
That was 49ers head coach Kyle Shanahan post-game, and oof, I know that one hurts. I know that he's going to be looking back on every single decision he made and just, that's the one that sticks with you. It drives you crazy. Caroline, Willie, D. Mace, we're broadcasting live from the Spring Hill Heating and Cooling Game Nashville studios, keeping your home feeling comfortable all year round. We've got a bunch of thoughts in our text and phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. So unless we have some thoughts.
Let's get to them.
All right, let's get to the phone. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Ronnie is on the line with a thought on the game yesterday. What's up, Ronnie?
Yeah, I haven't been listening all morning, but I've listened to a lot of different places about this. Now, I'm not a rocket scientist, and I'm an old man, so I'm definitely not into analytics. But the thing that hit me at that coin toss was if you take the ball first, you're giving the other team one down more. I don't know if somebody said that or not. But if you take the ball and you don't make a first down in 3 downs, you got to kick it. But if you're the second team gets it and you don't make a first down, if you're behind and you don't make a first down 3 downs, you got another down.
No question.
It
that's
seems
an
logical
advantage.
to me that you give it to the other team just for that purpose, if nothing else. Whether your quarterbacks are good or bad or whatever, I mean that's just. You're giving them another chance.
Yeah,
but
great point, Ronnie.
That's all I had to say. That's been driving me crazy.
Yeah, great point. Thank you for your call, Ronnie.
Dan Orlovsky, that was his big
Yeah.
thing on his take on it this morning. That was his overriding factor.
There's always has to be a talking point at the end of each week. So the talking point is
4 downs, 4 downs.
Yeah. You get the extra down, you get the extra down. Which, listen, he's
not wrong.
He's not wrong
Right.
in that sense. You do get that extra down. But I just think it's not just that simple to me. It's just not that simple as, they get an extra down. Because even in an extra down, if you execute what you're needed, if you stop them from executing what they want to execute, then they can have 20 downs. Essentially that's what you have throughout the course of a game. And
ideally your defense would get some stops.
Exactly. You need to stop them from executing what they want to execute on offense. But again, I understand everybody's sort of thought process of kick it off, see what they do, and then you come back and you get that extra down.
Right.
So I get it. Yeah.
If the possessions were flip-flopped,
Yeah.
the 49ers, let's say, are down 7. Let's just say the Chiefs score a touchdown, score the extra point, they're down 7. It's 4th and 4. You got to go for it if you're San Francisco. But when you have the ball first, it makes a whole heck of a lot of sense. Just go ahead and kick it, get the points, and then hope that your defense can get some stops. But that's where I disagree is the hope. Hope is not a strategy,
I think also
especially in the Super Bowl.
There's something to be said for putting the pressure on. We've got a field goal. You have to score to stay in the game. That's a thing, right? But that's where Patrick Mahomes comes in because he's got that unbelievably special ability to slow the game down and not be phased at all. And the same thing with Andy Reid. I thought that was the thing for me. And to me, that's something that a Titans fan maybe can hope, right, is that Brian Callahan being what we think is a pretty good offensive mind. He's got the background, right? He's had the tutelage in this. You saw some unreal play callers in a chess match yesterday with great pieces to work and going against excellent, talented defenses, right? That was a heck of a chess match. That was something to watch.
Those are 2 of the best defenses in the league.
Yeah.
One texter texts in, says, the reason why Shanahan took the ball first in overtime is because his defense was gassed. They'd just been on the field for a long game-tying drive.
I think that's legit.
But either Jim Nantz or Tony Romo, one of them brought that up.
Romo brought that up, yeah.
Look, your defense has just been on the field. They're gassed. You want to give them some time to rest up. But Kyle Shanahan in his post-game press conference said that was not a factor.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, he went with he went more so on the side of analytics.
He went on the third
Yeah,
time. We want the ball third.
Yeah, we get an opportunity to get the ball the third time. So to me, in a sense, it may be he wasn't thinking this, but if you're going to get up on a podium and say that you don't have faith in your defense, and if you don't have faith in your defense, just go for it on fourth down at the 4. Because essentially that's what you're saying.
Give your offense another opportunity.
That's what you're saying. You get on the podium and you say, well, we get the ball for the third time. Well, basically you're saying I don't really trust my defense to stop them. So we were thinking, well, we get the ball again. That doesn't make sense to me.
That's interesting. What was he asked how heavily he considered going for it, 4th and 4 from the 9
I'm not sure
after the incompletion to Jennings. I didn't hear that clip. If he did say something, I didn't hear the whole press conference.
But I'm sure that was a question that was asked, and I would love to go back and listen to it and react to it.
I wonder if he did consider it. Because they're right on the border,
right?
especially in today's NFL. Like he went. Remember the play that Kittle made in the fourth quarter?
It was fourth
and 3.
Yeah,
and they could have kicked to tie the game.
And they went for
it. And they did go for it. Mm-hmm. And they eventually ended up kicking a field goal anyway, right?
Exactly. So if that,
but Romo was like, "I'd go for it here. I'd go for it."
Burned a touchdown and then ended up just kicking a field goal.
Yeah. So I mean, that's like, why didn't you go for it if indeed this is what you were thinking in your mind? Like, we want the third possession. Well, you don't trust your defense.
You're assuming that they're going to score.
You're just assuming.
You're also assuming that they're just going to match you.
Exactly.
Like, I don't think that's a fair assumption to make.
No.
Because if you score a touchdown, you're assuming that they're just going to score a touchdown too, when going for 2 exists.
Yeah.
Skylar Texan says, if the 49ers would have scored a touchdown and then the Chiefs get one too, Shanahan would have looked like a genius for winning the game with that third possession. 49ers messed up not scoring a touchdown but instead kicking the field goal, but it wouldn't have mattered if the Chiefs went for 2. Exactly. Mm-hmm. That you can't always assume that they're just going to tie up the game and send it to double overtime. I think the second thing here too is we can easily criticize the decision to kick a field goal instead of going for a touchdown. Mm-hmm. In the moment, I didn't disagree with it necessarily.
No, I didn't. I thought, hey, listen, you're playing for points. It's overtime. So, because I think he would have been, vilified had he gone for it and not made it. And they're still vilified,
Because I just vilified Dan Campbell for doing the exact same thing.
Exactly. So you're gonna on either
and it's a different situation.
It's a different
situation.
Lions
were up, and it wasn't it wasn't overtime in the Super Bowl, but
either way, I think this they just didn't execute the way that that they should have or could have. I think that whole series from the 4 yard line, maybe it could have been done a little bit different. Mm-hmm. But them choosing to take the ball again, it's neither here nor there for me.
Here's another one I just thought of. Let's say that the Chiefs are down 3, like they were. They have the ball. And let's say it gets to 4th and goal from the 3. And your choices are a kick to tie it or go for it to win the Super Bowl on that play. What do you think they would have done?
They would have kicked the field goal because that's what they were set up to do anyway. That's why they ran the play that they ran.
Because then Kyle Shanahan's strategy would have been smart because then they have the first crack to win it with any score.
That's what people are not looking at. But see,
that's what's an interesting. That would have been a really interesting decision for Andy Reid because he's not afraid to gamble a little bit, right? It's like he could have said, "I'll put the game in Patrick Mahomes' hands, 4th and 3."
I would
to win it right there, rather than I'll tie it and then any number of things. But Mahomes may not get the ball back. Right, because that's the kind of thing that could have unfolded, right? Which is again why it's a complicated decision. It's not a clear-cut decision.
What did they? Because that last play, I think it was 6 seconds left on the clock.
Right, and they would have just switched ends, right? The clock could have hit 0.
But what I'm saying is that if Patrick rolls out like he does, and number 33 looks at the receiver instead of the quarterback, because the quarterback is accounted for. The linebacker's running out there for the quarterback. He's accounted for. 33, you're looking at the quarterback instead of looking at the guy. I guarantee the guy you're covering was supposed to be the guy that caught the touchdown.
It was Mecole Hardman.
Yeah, Mecole Hardman. Exactly.
He ran it.
They ran that play out.
And they almost kind of hit him,
Yeah.
and then he just did a little whoopsie-doo, ran back
same
out.
play they ran last year.
Yep.
In the playoffs, same, but to the other side.
In the Super Bowl. Yeah.
In the Super Bowl, but to the other side, same exact play. So to me, 33, your man was Mecole Hardman, but you were looking at the quarterback.
Yeah.
Well, the quarterback was already accounted for. The linebacker had the quarterback. Now, whether the linebacker make the tackle or not, that's a different story. But there's a man for man. You wanted to be superhero or Superman, and you lost your man, which was Mecole Hardman. Now, if you take Mecole Hardman, Mahomes has to make a decision. Either I throw the ball away now or I try to make a play. He's throwing the ball away with, 2 seconds left. What do you think, Andy Reid? More than likely, Andy Reid is probably, because they're at the 3-yard line. He's more inclined to kick it to take it into another overtime than to sit there and put it all on that. Maybe it's 3 seconds. Maybe it's 2. Maybe it's no seconds. We don't know.
Well, if it's 2 seconds, it would have acted like the end of the first quarter,
And
right?
they would have
You
just gotten the
switch
ball
ends,
back.
right? They would have
Yeah,
still
they
had it
switched
down.
ends.
But I'm saying they would have
gotten
went for a field goal because it was 3rd and 3.
Well, it
on
was
that
first
play?
and goal on the game-winning play, right? Wasn't
it
that first and goal?
It was first and
Oh,
goal.
sorry, 1st and goal from
Yeah.
the 3 with 6
But
seconds.
I'm
left.
just wondering, in any way, if it would have ended up, this is I don't know if we were getting it, because once it was 1st and goal, I'm thinking, oh boy,
because
This is not good
they
for
only
the
had
49ers.
2 plays left. Really, if you string it out, you may only have 1 play. But best case scenario, you have 2 plays with 1 second left. Really, 1 or 2 seconds left.
This might be a dumb question. Why is there a clock in overtime?
That's why it was confusing, right? And Romo, right
Because-
before this is the tricky part of broadcasting, because I'm sure there were some fans that because it was new to everybody, but imagine being a casual fan and
Yeah.
watching the clock go 6, 5,
Oh my
4,
gosh,
like, oh my
it's
gosh,
running
the clock's
out.
about to
They
go
just
0.
get the ball back on the other
Yeah.
side.
It was confusing. So you're right. They don't really need to have a clock. I mean, they need to have a play clock, obviously, but not a game clock
game
necessarily, unless.
No.
you did-
If we are to believe overtime rules, once it runs out, it's a new game. They lose control of the ball. They got to score.
But wouldn't they be calling timeouts
No,
then?
what I'm saying
They
is
had 3 timeouts.
But yeah, they do. So they would have. But if the seconds run 0, Kansas City loses the game. The game's over with. They don't go into another overtime. Didn't mean another sort of.
Yeah, they would.
Yeah, they
No,
would have.
no,
They
no.
would have. They would have switched ends, and almost like the
So it would have
first
still
quarter
been
ran out.
Kansas City's ball.
Oh,
but
yeah,
that's
yeah,
not
yeah.
overtime. To
It's-
me, that's
why the guy said it's a new game.
That
It's a
doesn't
new
make
game.
sense.
It's just like the end of the first quarter,
Right.
kind of.
Because it's not like the
So it
regular
doesn't-
season where at the end of a quarter of play, it's a tie, right? And obviously the Super Bowl can't be a tie. That's why.
Exactly.
That's why it's really immaterial that the clock was running out. It just would have been a switch ends of the field, I guess, right?
And they.
So to me,
But it was confusing to a lot of
so
people because
now
they're
I
seeing a
see,
clock go
yeah.
down to
Now
0.
I
like,
see
think
why
that if you
people-
don't score here, the game is
Yeah.
over. So I don't
That's what-
understand
yeah.
why a game clock even exists in overtime, and especially in that situation when
Yeah.
possessions trump game clock.
Yeah.
Weird. Okay, I want to continue the conversation coming up next. Of course, Super Bowl, we always have the conversation of legacy, one way or another. One team cements their legacy into the history of the NFL. In another team, there's more narratives. And with Kyle Shanahan, there are going to be narratives that come out. This is now the 3rd Super Bowl of Kyle Shanahan, either a coordinator or a head coach, with an absolutely devastating loss. Do we look at Kyle Shanahan any differently? And on the other side, what's the legacy of Patrick Mahomes? My goodness. We'll get into that coming up next. We'll also get into your thoughts as well. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Caroline, Willie, D. Mace, 1025-1063 The Game. Caroline, Willie, D. Mays, 1025, 1063, The Game and The Game Nashville app. We are streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every single day. Teron Davenport, TD, will join us in 1 hour. We'll get his thoughts on the Super Bowl, what he took away from the game yesterday. And now, since it is officially the first day of the NFL offseason, I'm not ready to quite switch into offseason mode, but we'll start to get that into that vibe with TD in 1 hour. Breaking down the Super Bowl yesterday, the Kansas City Chiefs win their third Super Bowl in 5 years. Patrick Mahomes gets his third Super Bowl MVP in 5 years. And that's, I think, probably the number one conversation nationally. The conversation on ESPN and CBS and Fox and the NFL Network is the legacy of Patrick Mahomes. That Patrick Mahomes is 28 years old. He's been in the league for 8 years, 7 as a starter. He's, 2 league MVPs, 3 Super Bowl MVPs, and 3 Super Bowl rings. And frankly, it doesn't look like he's slowing down anytime soon. And looking at Andy Reid as well. I don't think that you can have a conversation about Patrick Mahomes without having that hand in hand with Andy Reid. Now, I think Patrick Mahomes is still Patrick Mahomes with or without Andy Reid. But with that duo, I mean, Kansas City is a dynasty. Right now, you have 3 Super Bowls in 5 years. That's a dynasty.
Yeah, they are a dynasty. What does this game mean in regards to legacies for Patrick Mahomes or Andy Reid? I think he just keeps building on it. He now is mentioned in the same sentence as Chuck Noll, Bill Belichick, who else? Any other?
Don Shula.
Yeah, Don Shula. Well, coaches
Some of the best ever.
Yeah, some
to
of
ever
the
do it.
best ever that have won multiple Super Bowls. Now Andy's in that rarefied air. He's there.
I'll ask you this question, and Willie, you too. Do you feel any differently about Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid today than you did yesterday?
Yes, I do, because when you win it, when you get another one, you get into that category that's even more rare, back to back, right? There's it's 58 Super Bowls now. Not a lot of back to backs in there.
No.
So that's new, and of course every ring you add to your hand, that's different. So I think now. Yes, I have moved both of them up. And they were already probably borderline Hall of Famers, but now they're among the greatest of the great now, I think, and with a chance to add to it more because Mahomes is only 28.
Yeah.
He's 28.
So crazy.
If you're okay, because we got to do them, I'm going to do them both separately and not together because Andy career, he had a career before Patrick Mahomes came.
And that was nothing to sneeze at. That was a pretty darn good run.
He had a Hall of Fame career before, Kansas City, or it was borderline. It was you can put him in, maybe not. I think Levy is in the Hall of Fame, and he hasn't won a Super Bowl. Period. He's been to 4 of them, but he hasn't won a Super Bowl. He was like on that cusp before he got to Kansas City, because he had been to a Super Bowl. Now he ends up winning it. Now, obviously he wins his first and his second. Now he's in that rarefied air. He wins his third. Okay, now he's solidified. He can't be taken out of there. He's there. He can't be removed. So to me, that's Andy. I've always thought Andy was the best play caller that I've ever seen. And I've been watching it for a very long time, but understanding the game, he's the best play caller I've watched. Patrick Mahomes, he's the best quarterback. I almost want to say this generation, but the problem is Tom played
Brady's
in this generation, and Tom beat him. Tom beat him in the Super Bowl, so I can't quite give him that. He's the second best quarterback of this generation. And the further we are removed from Tom Brady, the greater he becomes as a quarterback, meaning Patrick Mahomes. Right now, listen, there's only one GOAT, at a position. Let's just say that. There's only one GOAT, and the GOAT right now is Tom Brady.
Right now. Okay,
yeah, so right now. Tom's beat you, which means you have to win 7 Super Bowls. No, you have to win 8 Super Bowls or 9 to supersede Tom. Why? Because Tom beat you.
That's interesting.
And he beat you twice. He beat you in an AFC Championship game, and then he came back and beat you in the Super Bowl.
Different stages of the career, though.
I understand.
So okay, let me make a statement. You guys tell me if you agree or disagree. Patrick Mahomes at age 28 is equal to Tom Brady at age 28.
Oh, yeah. I would even say maybe
he may be
more
better,
than Tom Brady.
Because that's a good argument because I think Mahomes has had to elevate his team more than Brady did back then, arguably.
Because when we talk about GOAT or
that's a tough
comparisons,
one. And look at the running ability like that he's got, the what's the right word? The improvisational way that he can do it to beat you
off platform.
Right, Brady doesn't really have that.
He wasn't as mobile as Mahomes is.
But that would be a debate. Who would you take, Mahomes or Brady at age 28 season?
Mahomes.
Like who would you would take Mahomes?
I think Mahomes is a little bit far.
There's no bad choice, but I think you could make the argument for Mahomes.
I think he's a little bit further along than Tom was. Now, again, this is how we can scoop Mahomes up into that GOAT. We can say, well, he's the best before age 28.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's on a trajectory to
he's
be.
on exactly. But let's just look at the totality of it. Listen, y'all know how I feel about Tom Brady. Hey, listen, he's a Michigan man, so that eliminates him. But I respect him because he's a hell of a competitor and he's a winner. That I do respect. And he's probably a great guy, but put on a Michigan hat, I don't like you. But the totality of his career, Pat has to do a little bit more.
Yeah, and he's going to have the chance to do it,
and he has a chance to do it. But he has to do more. To me, Tom's won 7 Super Bowls. Am I right? 6?
Yes,
7. He beat you twice. People throw out the AFC Championship game. He beat you in the AFC Championship game, which y'all should have won, but your man jumped offside. So Tom beat you. He beat you in the AFC Championship game. And then he says, nope, I'm going to go to the NFC. And then he comes back and he doesn't beat you. He embarrasses your team in the Super Bowl, which tells me you got to win 2 over him to become his equal or even better.
See, I don't think that I can look at number of rings to dictate who is the better quarterback because Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl.
Well,
Dan Marino didn't.
Well,
I think Dan Marino is a much better quarterback than Trent Dilfer was.
Even if you look at the numbers, Tom's the greatest. There's nobody close to him. Even if you look at the numbers, there's no one close to Tom Brady. He's the greatest.
Well, yeah, and whenever Patrick Mahomes ultimately retires, we'll be able to get a full, a full
Is he
evaluation.
Play 45? Exactly. I mean, that's pretty amazing that Brady did. That's part of how you become the GOAT is to do it as long as he did it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't think that Patrick Mahomes necessarily needs to win 9 Super Bowls for me to view him as the GOAT. If he does, then, it's hands down. Let's not have the conversation. He would be the best quarterback to ever do it. But I think I also look at what were you working with to win those Super Bowls. Is it fair to say that this is the worst team that Patrick Mahomes has won with in the Super Bowl?
The worst in terms of what?
Overall talent?
Overall talent.
I don't even, okay.
How is this?
Y'all looking at this a little bit, y'all look at it different than what I look at it. The talent that Patrick Mahomes has, it's good talent, but it's young talent. And these young players during the season, because we all looked at it, or we all should have looked at it.
Is MVS young?
We all should have, he's not a 10-year vet. I don't think he's Valdez-Scantling, how long has he been in the NFL?
All right.
Other than Travis Kelce.
Too long to be dropping as many balls as he had throughout the entirety of the season.
What I'm saying is this. If they're catching all their balls during the season, what are we saying? Oh, his core, they're good. This is a solid team. Because it's not that they were not open. Like
Kadarius Toney cannot catch a cold.
The fear of the Kansas City Chiefs was this. If those guys start catching the football, look out. Because they're wide open. They're running down the field. They're fast. They can get open. If they start catching the football, watch out. What happened in the playoffs? I don't think they may have dropped one ball. When they got everything together, see, this is the difference. You get talent. That's why I look at somebody like Treylon Burks. You have the talent, but for some reason, dropping balls. for whatever reason, you're not maximizing it. Kansas City has the talent. The players, they have the talent. They were not maximizing it during the season for whatever reason. But when they needed to show up, that talent all came together. And that talent started playing to the level that the Chiefs expected them to play in at the beginning of the season. That's why they chose to move away from Tyreek Hill, because they were like, okay, we got enough pass catchers. We're good. They didn't look at them and say, oh, these some bums. We're still going to let him go. No, they looked at it. Okay, these guys,
But you
we're
take
good.
that pass catching group and you put it with middle of the
They
road
were
quarterback.
bad during the season.
That's not a playoff
No, but
team.
what I'm saying is they were they were bad during the season, majority like the first part of the season, and then all of a sudden they started catching the ball, and what did that lead to? Winning football games. So that was the fear that if these guys start catching the ball again, because if you watch a Chiefs game, the balls that they were dropping, they were wide open.
Yeah,
These
so
guys were
bad.
just running scot-free wide open. So the fear is if they ever start catching the football, wow. And they start catching the football in the playoffs. So I don't look at this. Maybe it was not maybe he did win the playoffs. This
He doesn't
Super
have
Bowl.
Tyreek Hill on this
This Super Bowl, he did win it without as much help. But last year,
So
it was all the same guys except Juju.
It's amazing how they took.
Juju is the only guy I believe that's not there from last year because they brought Mecole Hardman back.
Uh-huh.
They had Valdez Scantling last year. They had Kadarius Toney, I believe, last year. They had all these pass catchers. Yeah, but they had all
Did
these
he even
pass
do
catchers
anything
last year.
yesterday?
He
didn't play.
He was inactive. Yeah.
They activated him from the IR or something, but they
Yeah.
didn't make him active for the game.
You know, I looked at this before the game. It's pretty interesting. They did not have a 1,000-yard receiver,
No.
which is crazy. Kelsey and Rice had over 900, but not 1,000.
I think Rice is a pretty good player.
Yeah,
Rice
here.
is good, but he's young, right?
He's young.
Yeah.
After that, they had 6 players catch between 20 and 28 passes. Like, that's a really interesting stat to me. That a team that won the whole thing. It's like they had to figure out what can this guy do well, what he can't do. Like, okay, if we need to do this, we need to get this guy out and put this guy in because he's better. Like, that was a masterful way of just trying to get the most out of a group that, like you said, Caroline, if you had a different coach, a different quarterback, these guys, or if you put these guys scattered about the league, they're probably not impact players, right? If they're not used, but they knew how to use these guys, right? And
Whereas on
they
the
have a
other
quarterback that knows how to elevate these guys.
And on the other side, you put Debo, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey with anyone.
Yeah,
Like,
those
I
are
can
weapons.
quarterback in
Yeah.
that team.
But
And
what's the
those are
difference?
some pretty solid weapons.
But what's the difference? You're paying Purdy basically the league minimum, right? He's the best bargain in football because you're paying him basically nothing. And as Andrew Brandt pointed out, he gets to play. They get to play him for that same contract next year.
Next year.
He's going to be the cheapest, best bargain in the league next year.
I mean-
and you have all that money to spend on McCaffrey and all these other guys. It's flipped on Kansas City. You're paying
Well, they're
Mahomes
looking
the
to
huge
rework
number.
his contract now.
Like Brock Purdy would be a
But
cheap
you don't have
quarterback
enough money
in
to.
college.
They didn't have enough money to keep Tyreek Hill. Like they would have loved to. So they had to go about it that way. But they figured with Andy Reid and with Patrick Mahomes, we'll find just enough guys because we'll keep Kelsey, and we'll find enough guys who can do the job. And it worked.
And
barely.
That's what having a Patrick Mahomes can do for you.
Yeah, he's an equalizer.
And I asked you guys, do you feel any differently about Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid? And I do think when we look back on history, when we look at the stats 30, 40, 50 years from now, having that back-to-back, having 3 and 5 years, like that's going to stand out. That's important from a history book standpoint. Maybe I'm completely unfair here. I really don't look at them any differently. I thought Patrick Mahomes was the best quarterback in the National Football League yesterday. He's still the best quarterback in the National Football League. If I could take any quarterback in the league right now, I'd take Patrick Mahomes yesterday and today and tomorrow. I think he's the biggest X factor. He's the biggest difference maker. So yes, having another Super Bowl under his belt, another Super Bowl MVP under his belt, of course that just solidifies it. Of course that just adds even more to an already extensive and impressive resume. But I mean, win or lose, he's still the best in the league. I don't know how much my mind can really be changed there. He's the best right now, and look great. He just continues to cement that.
I don't think obviously the more he wins, now the talk becomes, closer to Tom and what he did.
Yes.
But right now, it's like you're still 4 Super Bowls behind Tom.
You're still the class of the
Exactly.
NFL. You're still the barrier to entry in the Super Bowl for every other team in the AFC.
Because he played the way Patrick Mahomes played all the time.
Mm-hmm.
That's just what he did. So when I look at it, those are things that I expect him to do. Now, if I'm not a Kansas City fan, then I'm hoping that he, found, blunders somewhere along the line. But some people that's what you like. Okay, what do I expect out of you? Okay, you're giving me exactly what I expect, greatness. So when you give me greatness, I then can't, if I thought one way about you, just because you did that, it doesn't change. I already thought you were great, So there's nothing greater than great. What is greater than great? I mean, you can make up a word. You can say greatest, but does that mean that's greater than? It's still great.
Like you're greater.
Yeah, I'm a greater. I mean, no,
that's
you're just great.
That's an unfair standard, probably. Of wow, you just did something amazing and you carried your
Exactly.
team to a Super Bowl, and it's just like, yawn, just another year.
But
But
he
that's what
did-
Patrick Mahomes
exactly.
has done for himself.
But that's the greatness of Patrick Mahomes. That what he does now, it's like Tom Brady. It's almost like it's the Tom Brady, the Michael Jordan, the Tiger Woods, the Connor McDavid, guys like that. When you see it all the time, when they do it, it's like, okay, that's them.
yeah,
Right.
It's just greatness.
But when Peyton Manning won the second Super Bowl, even though he wasn't at his best, that certainly helped his legacy.
It's a
There
different
would have been a
conversation.
lot of, he only won it once.
Because his brother had won it twice.
Right,
remember?
right.
Yeah.
So that was the thing, right?
There's a lot of quarterbacks that have won it once.
Once you get a second one, like every one you get, it does change the legacy. So
It moves you away
though
from other
I agree with
quarterbacks.
your premise. He's
Yeah.
great either way. Like Dan Marino was a great quarterback. Like let's not even debate. But he gets the rap of never won it. And I still think there's another mini level of that when you only won it once. And I'll give you another example. The Bobby Cox Braves of the 90s through early 2000s, they were the best team in baseball, but they only won it one time. And there was still kind of that was a great team, but they only won it once.
I mean, Aaron Rodgers. That feels like an underachievement.
Only
He's
won it once.
Only won
as a
it
tag.
once.
That's why I'm saying you should have your perception changed. You're making the argument for me that with the ring,
But he had already won two.
He won two.
He had already
right?
won
But,
two up at
but
that point.
three's
so-
better. Three's different than
Oh,
two.
four, yeah.
I think it's-
Four's different
Yeah.
than three.
It's
You
kind
know,
of a
we're-
rule of three of you do something once. It's either unfortunate or lucky. You're just fortunate. You do something twice. Like let's say you
and
lose
back
two
to
Super
back's
Bowls.
different than a lot of things too. That's
is.
another category.
But I'm just saying, from my personal view of Patrick Mahomes, of course, the way that we'll view it, the way that history books will view it, it's different. It adds a second level. I still think he's great. But you
great,
do
great,
something
great is
three
great,
times, and it now becomes a trend, whether it's good or bad. I could use the same argument for Kyle Shanahan. You lose one Super Bowl once, well, that's just unfortunate. You lose it twice, now you're unlucky. Third time, now it's becoming a trend.
Well, he wasn't the coach for the first one.
He was the offensive
OC,
coordinator.
yeah, so
Right,
you
totally
can't put it
different
all
thing.
on-
Before
yeah.
the most epic heartbreaker of a Super Bowl of all time, I feel like we got to throw that in there. All right, I want to get right into your phones on this coming up next. Everything is on the table. Your reaction to the Super Bowl, the legacy of Patrick Mahomes, Kyle Shanahan's decision to receive the ball in overtime. We'll get into all of your phones on this coming up next. Caroline Beligi Mace, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Well, the football season is officially over, people. I know you're sad. I know you're crying. But if you're a Kansas City Chiefs fan, I know you're probably still a little hungover from yesterday, which, okay, as long as you're at home, relaxing. But that doesn't mean sports is over. Sports is not over. We still have basketball, hockey, and everything else. So and I know you will, bet on sports, you got to do it with our partner Zen Sports, okay? And they have their promotion, which is available to everyone in Tennessee. It's the No Danger First wager, okay? You've heard me talk about it for the last 2 or 3 months, okay? When you sign up for a Zen Sports account, you will receive up to $1,000 No Danger First wager. When you place your first bet on Zen Sports, you will be reimbursed for the amount of your bet if it loses up to $1,000. Plus, Zen Sports has launched their VIP program for the premier bettors of Tennessee. If you think you might qualify, then listen up. The VIP program is by invite only. So if you feel that your Zen Sports play qualifies for the VIP consideration, please check out the program details and apply at zensports.com/VIP. No other sportsbook will offer you a premier sports betting experience with 24/7 top-tier customer support and bigger and better action than Zen Sports. So what are you waiting for, people? Get going and download their app at zensports.com today. Zen Sports, where betting just got better. Gambling problems? Remember, call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 years or older to bet here in Tennessee.
Caroline, Willie D. Mays. We're brought to you by Zen Sports. Start earning cash rewards on your bets today. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and in Tennessee to bet. TD will join us at the top of the hour in 30 minutes. But now we're taking your calls, your texts, your thoughts and reaction from the Super Bowl yesterday. Our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Eric has been waiting very patiently and is on the line. What's up, Eric?
Hey, guys, you were talking about, and before I get to stuff Super Bowl related for yesterday's game, guys, the one team and person you really got to feel bad for is the Buffalo Bills. 4 straight Super Bowls and not a single victory with Marv Levy,
4 falls
Jim
Buffalo.
Kelly. Yeah. Marv Levy, Jim Kelly, Thurman Thomas, Andre Reed, Bruce Smith, and all those guys. So you really feel bad for them. Guys, first of all, Usher, halftime, fantastic. Guys, I generally don't get into music today, but I got to give him props for his performance with all the roller skaters, other artists, and just the way they did that. It's just amazing that they were able to do that because I was born in the early 60s, so my music is mostly from about the mid-60s to the mid-80s, so because I don't get the artists today, but I will give them credit for that yesterday. And favorite commercial was, of course, Tom Brady, J-Lo, Ben Affleck, and Matt Damon commercial, Dunkin' Donuts. That was my favorite. Guys, I will say this about the Super Bowl game yesterday. One thing, guys, I think we're forgetting, and if this happens in the game, we're not even having a discussion about overtime, and that's the kicker with the missed extra point. If that doesn't happen, guys, we're not even having this discussion of overtime because it means San Francisco's up 4, and Mahomes is facing a 4th down and 6 and having to go for a touchdown, not a time field goal late in the ball game. So, and we can talk about all this stuff about overtime and about coaching decision, all that type of stuff, and I'm not saying that Shanahan, I didn't have issue with some of his coaches, especially with the running of McCaffrey. But all this stuff about analytics, and I'm one of these old school guys that was not thrilled with all the changes they did in overtime because I believe, like, ultimately defense wins the game. And, guys, here's the thing. Ultimately, regardless of how many possessions you have, defense eventually has to make a stop the offense from scoring to end the game. That's period. That's an inarguable fact.
Yeah.
And also, too, the other thing, too, is, guys, whether we think it's fair or not, guys, life in general is just not fair. So I just think no matter what you do with overtime, you're still going to have people not happy about it because we're having a discussion about it now about things going on because you're never going to get to a situation where everybody's pleased. Guys, y'all take care and we'll talk to you again soon.
Great call, Eric. Appreciate your call. To that point about the extra point, I will tolerate zero Jake Moody slander on this program today. Poor guy had the Super Bowl field goal record for about 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And he hit all of his kicks. I mean, it was...
Hit 250-plus.
There were 3 total 50-plus field goals yesterday. If you take his 2, it was, 55 and 50-something?
55
57.
and 53.
And then Butker was 57.
Butker was 57.
So there was some great kicking yesterday. It wasn't a bad kick. The kick just got blocked.
Yeah, and AJ Feely, or AJ Feely or Jay Feely?
Jay Feely.
Jay Feely.
Yeah.
AJ Feely used to play quarterback?
Yep, quarterback.
Yeah, okay. Jay Feely. He did say that he thought that the trajectory was blockable, right? He kind of
got
put
too
the
low.
angle.
The
It
kick
wasn't
was
a great
too low.
kick.
Yeah.
But yet, it's hard to argue. That was high degree of difficulty kicking overall. And when the extra point is from the 30, from 35 yards out, occasionally it is going to happen. I don't care how good you are, you're just going to have that one. But those guys both were asked to do a lot. Yesterday.
Yeah.
That was pretty incredible. The one by Butker from 57, that's about as low a kick. When he kicked it, I was like, there's no way he's got enough on that, does he?
I thought it almost got blocked because it came down so low.
Oh, it was very close.
But listen, I come from the school of thought is that's your only job. Mm-hmm. Everybody out here is battling. They're battling to put you in a position potentially to make field goals or kick the game-winning field goal. And listen, 30-yard field goal, that's just a chip shot to you. It's a chip shot to you. I couldn't make it, but I wasn't brought in to make field goals.
But they also can't make a 45-yard reception.
I was brought in to catch footballs. You're brought in to kick field goals. Kick field goals. There's no excuse for you to kick a low field goal like that in a situation like that because you got to understand guys they know more than likely they're not going to block it, but they're going to still put their hands up because they're hoping that one time either it's a bad snap or you kick that thing low enough for them to block it. If you get some height on it, there's no way they can block it. Mm-hmm. It comes off too fast. You kick the ball low, which caused it to be blocked. So again, yeah, you made 2 50-yarders. That's great. I'm glad you did. That's your job. You're supposed to. I know it's high degree of difficulties, but you should have made it. And he made them. But the one that ultimately put y'all in a situation, I'm not going to say it lost y'all the game, but it put y'all in a situation where y'all then had to go into overtime.
Took you to overtime.
Yeah, it took you to overtime. Because if you make that, either Kansas City is going to lose or they got to win, but it's not going into overtime. One of the two.
And to Eric's point of, if they didn't miss the extra point, Mahomes would be faced with, what was it, 4th and something. So obviously they just kick the field goal to tie it, take it to overtime. But like I said earlier, if it's 4th and whatever, Super Bowl on the line, you need to score to win. And if you don't, you lose. I mean, I'll take Patrick Mahomes in that situation.
Yeah, I'll take him,
it's no guarantee that he wouldn't score the touchdown.
But it's still the pressure.
If you, score the
it's
touchdown.
not him. It's the people he's throwing it to.
And the pressure is on because you have to score.
Yes.
That you're down 4. The fallback plan of a field goal is not there. So it's a completely different trajectory.
But that touchdown happens with
which touchdown?
The touchdown in which they missed the extra point. That was early fourth quarter. Is that right?
Was that the Juwan Jennings touchdown?
Yeah, it was. Juwan
when
Jennings
they missed the extra.
Yep, it was Juwan Jennings.
So really, every possession after that, in theory, could have been played differently. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
It's just not as simple as, well, it wouldn't.
You can't put it in
I think we can say it wouldn't have gone to overtime because the math dictated that way.
Math
Probably
wouldn't be
not.
mathin'.
But ultimately,
but it just changes how you would unfold your
Yeah.
decision making down 4 as opposed to down 3.
But ultimately, that kick does change what Kansas City has to do, because I think subsequently on the next drive, that's when they went all the way down and they got to a point where they were like, okay, let's just kick the field goal and send it to overtime. If you kick the field goal and you're up 4 instead of 3, now Kansas City has to change what they're doing as far as how aggressive they need to be. So you gave them an out. You gave them 2 options instead of 1. You give Patrick Mahomes and Kansas City and Andy Reid 2 options, yeah, you might not win.
Which is exactly why I disagree with Kyle Shanahan's decision to receive in overtime. Because you're giving them options.
Yeah.
You're expanding Andy Reid's little Waffle House menu that he's got in front of his face. Justin Greenbrier texts in, says, this is just the unfortunate proof that you can have a loaded team with talent everywhere, but unless you have the guy in Patrick Mahomes, you're hard-pressed to win the big game. It becomes a chess match, and you better not mess up or it'll cost you. I agree to a certain extent that when you have a guy like Patrick Mahomes, you can afford to make certain mistakes because you have the great eraser. But that game went into overtime. Like, let's not act.
Purdy excellent.
Purdy had a good game. I know that almost and coulda, shoulda, woulda. I know that we can say that all day long. But let's not act like Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs are untouchable and unbeatable. That game went to overtime with Brock Purdy quarterbacking the San Francisco 49ers.
Brock Purdy didn't do anything to put his team at a disadvantage. He did not. He went out there, and I know what many people, there were probably a handful of people that were thinking, oh, he's going to cram up. He's going to shrink in this moment. I didn't see that. I didn't see it in his face. I didn't see it in his movement. I didn't see it in anything that he did yesterday. Actually, it was because of him a lot of times that they were able to extend drives. The one he threw to Chris McCaffrey on a sideline where Chris McCaffrey ended up getting like 20 yards. He's as good as set, but he knows space. He knows where everybody's at, and he knows his outlet is over here to my left. So what did I do? I'm getting pressure. Oh, I know my outlets. Boom, throw it to our best offensive weapon. He gets yards. He did the things necessary to win them a football game. This isn't, to me, this has nothing to do with Brock Purdy. Nothing that happened yesterday had anything to do with Brock Purdy not stepping up. Look at the numbers. The numbers are damn good across the board for him. He didn't do anything. Patrick was the one that threw an interception. Purdy didn't throw an interception. Purdy didn't put his team in a position where, it wasn't advantageous to them. Now, they didn't get some third downs, but it doesn't necessarily because of him. If the guy doesn't come up the middle on that third down, he hits Jawan Jennings or he hits Ayuk for a touchdown. Everybody's screaming and yelling, "Oh, he's the best." Well, he's played that way the whole game. And then you hear some guys, "Oh, he should have made that throw. He should." That guy barreling down on him. It's like,
I don't know how he.
How was he supposed to make that throw? He got the ball out of his hands just to get it away. He did the smart thing, as we ask quarterbacks to do all the time. Don't take the sack. He didn't take the sack.
Caleb and Gallatin also texts in, kind of along those same lines, says, after the loss yesterday, do you think the view on Brock Purdy changes? I don't think he played badly yesterday, but I'm curious what the fans think.
I think his next contract is going to be very interesting. I was reading Andrew Brandt's thing. Like, he's, as the last pick in the draft, like, I don't know what his signing bonus was, probably next to nothing. This is only his second year.
Couple $100.
So next year, he's under that same contract. And then after next year,
he can sign.
They can sign him to the extension, right? And you could probably set it where that fourth year is still also probably pretty cheap, right? But I wonder if he can continue along this path. Does he jump into that Burrow and Jackson and Herbert and all these guys? Like,
why not?
I say that, even though he doesn't throw the ball the same, but he's winning you over.
If Daniel Jones is getting that kind of money, surely a quarterback.
Oh, he's going to blow by that,
gets
right?
you to the Super Bowl is going to get you that kind of money. I don't care where you were picked. I don't care if you're Mr. Irrelevant or not.
So based upon just putting your team in a position to move along in the playoffs and getting to the big game, he's in. It is what it is. He's better than every other quarterback not named Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes.
No.
Yes. Why? This is the reason why. You can say, listen, well, he has this guy. Well, I can go and say the same thing about Josh Allen. He has a top 3 receiver in the National Football League on his team. He got a damn good tight end, good running backs, a good second and third receiver. I can say that about Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson this was the year they should have won. They had a stacked team, and they didn't win. Justin Herbert, his talent, look at his talent. Just look at man-to-man, his talent. They've been injured a lot, but look at his talent. His talent is just as good or better than San Francisco's talent. I'm talking about skilled guys. Those guys hadn't even reached the AFC Championship. Brock Purdy, and I'm not talking about what he can, like his physical ability. Obviously, Mahomes. Honestly, Josh is better than him from a physical standpoint, what he can do with the football. Obviously, I think Lamar is better than him, and the kid out in the Chargers is better than him. But what you've been able to do with your team and for your team, they're not better than him, because what he did, he took his team to a Super Bowl, and everybody's and everybody's still trying to discount him.
But the key is when you go to the second contract and you're making that big chunk of the salary cap. Now you have to still do it without as many weapons, just like Patrick Mahomes is having to do it without Tyreek Hill, which he's doing. He's that good. Aaron Rodgers faced that, right? And Herbert now, even though he's never won anything yet, now he's making the big chunk for the first time. What are they going to be able to put around him? You got to get creative. Like Joe Burrow in the years to come will have to do it without Chase and T. Higgins, right? They'll probably have Chase, but he won't have, you know what I mean? Like you're taking a bigger percentage of the pie, bigger slice of the pie, so you have to be that good. That's what Purdy, I think, in the second contract, that's when he's going to have to get to that next level and prove that he does, because he doesn't have the rocket arm. We've pointed out that there's some measurables that he doesn't have, but he's still an unbelievably good quarterback, and his stats were off the chart. But he does have a loaded group around him.
Well, let's continue this coming up next, because I think the view of Brock Purdy, the perception of Brock Purdy, and the perception of just quarterbacks in general right now in today's NFL. How has that changed? Or maybe how has that proven what we originally thought after yesterday? We'll get into that coming up next. Caroline, Willie, D. Mace. Tomorrow, it is your chance to participate in Preds Pick to Click. If you correctly guess a Preds player that scores a goal in the Preds game tomorrow night, then you will win a pair of tickets to an upcoming Preds home game. Participate with Robbie and Rex Road tomorrow morning at 8:45 a.m. Pick to Click brought to you by TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty. List your home with TJ to get your home seen, heard, and sold.
I got to be better in terms of, leading the guys and just, I think how I handle things in the huddle and telling them, what to expect, stuff like that. So, but yeah, at the end of the day, I think we have the team, the offense to score touchdowns, and I think I failed to put our team in position to do that. Yeah, we're going to execute the field goal, trusting Jake and all the guys on special teams, but obviously their offense is really good. Mahomes is really good, and just don't want to give him an opportunity, to go down and win the game off a touchdown.
There, that was 49ers quarterback Brock Purdy post-game. Caroline Willie D. Mays, we're broadcasting live from the Spring Hill Heating and Cooling Game Nashville studios, keeping your home feeling comfortable all year round. We will catch up with TD in 10 minutes at the top of the hour. We'll get his thoughts on what we saw in the Super Bowl yesterday. We had one texter text in and say, do you think the view on Brock Purdy changes? He didn't play bad yesterday, but he said, I'm curious to see what the fans think. That Brock Purdy did not commit the fatal mistake yesterday. And I think that might be step one. That we've seen some quarterbacks in the playoffs, especially Josh Allen, maybe we saw that in the AC Championship game with Lamar Jackson in Baltimore, where you make the fatal mistake, whether that's a turnover, whether that's a bad throw, when in a gotta-have-it, need-it moment. Brock Purdy didn't do that yesterday. So I think that might shut down some of the discussion about Brock Purdy or a non-elite quarterback, that they can't get it done for you. I don't think Brock Purdy was the issue for the 49ers yesterday. And the 49ers made a lot of mistakes. Turnovers, the blocked extra point. But I don't think Brock Purdy was the problem. And if anything, I look at that and I say, Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, went toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, that they got that game to overtime. And Patrick Mahomes just did Patrick Mahomes things, made Superman plays. And that was ultimately the difference. But it's not like Brock Purdy and the 49ers got trounced by Patrick Mahomes.
He's only been in the league 2 years. So we talked about the E word, right? Is he elite? Is he not elite? What does he have to do to be elite?
To prove that he is elite.
I would agree he's got to do it longer. But I think if he can play at this level for a few more years, I think he can get that tag. He is one of the more unique guys that you evaluate in the game, I would say.
Yeah,
for that reason.
Yeah, it's hard to. Thank you, Nick. It's hard to, because you look at it and say, well, Purdy, Mahomes, and you say, well, he lost to Mahomes. Well, it's not like
quarterbacks do.
Yeah, it's not like he played like this horrendous game, and that was the reason why they lost to a Patrick Mahomes.
Like, if it was an end-of-game interception that sealed it for the Chiefs,
exactly.
I think you would start to hear a whole lot about Brock Purdy and the non-elite quarterback, that they are just going to ruin it for you. That's not the case.
Also, like, you think about what opportunities were there for the 49ers in the first half that could have changed the way the game unfolded and changed the narrative. But, Christian McCaffrey fumbled. That first drive, they're moving. Like, there were times where I said to myself in that first half, the 49ers should be up more than they are. Like, it was only 3-0 when you're thinking, it's only 3-0?
Yeah.
Like, and it was 10-0, but you're at the same time, you're saying, okay, the 49ers are really the Chiefs are fortunate that they're only down 10-0. And then they got the field goal at the end of the half, and you're like, oh, the Chiefs are – watch out. The Chiefs they've let him hang around.
Yeah.
Right? Didn't you have that feeling? I thought the 49ers really were close to breaking through and being much more ahead. That could have totally changed what we think when we ask this question about Purdy and all those guys.
Well, the part was they let him hang around. And when you're playing against a quarterback like that, the longer you hang around, the tighter you get.
Yeah.
That's like, what was it, years ago? Well, yeah, you're winning, but Tom gets the ball last. Mm-hmm. It's like 1 minute and 20 seconds left.
And that's hanging over your head.
Exactly. Tom gets the ball last, and everybody's thinking like, gosh, like seriously? It's the same thing with Patrick Mahomes. It's not like the other quarterback, meaning Brock Purdy, didn't play well, didn't play damn good. If they win, more than likely he is the MVP, or he may be sharing it with Christian McCaffrey. But because you're going against Patrick Mahomes, it's like, man, yeah, you did all you can do, but Patrick gets the ball last. Like, damn. Seriously. So that's the way I sort of look at it. You can't compare the two. But I think Brock Purdy played a damn good game. He played a winning game. He played winning quarterback. That's what he did. But unfortunately, his team was going up against one of the greats.
Yeah.
And it ended with the great having the ball last.
I think right now I still believe that Brock Purdy is the kind of quarterback, he's not going to lose you a game. Does he elevate everyone else around him? I don't think so.
I don't know about that.
Because I don't think he's gotten an opportunity to necessarily.
Yeah.
Because if
When he gets that second contract, he'll get that opportunity.
Well, we have so many pieces around you, proven elite pieces around you. How can I say that he is elevating those pieces?
Here's the thing. Because to me, I think he's elevated the offense in what they're capable of doing. Because this offense is better than what it was at Jimmy Garoppolo. I think people looked at it a little bit different, or you should have looked at it a little bit different, because he isn't Garoppolo by any stretch of the imagination. He's a much better quarterback than Garoppolo. What he does is he does elevate everyone, because just look at the throws he were making. The one that Debo ended up dropping, they were inside their 30.
Oh.
And he
That
got
one was a killer.
mad. He got hit in the face, and he still delivered the ball to where only Debo can catch it. Debo should have caught it. He didn't, and it almost ended up being an interception. And people would have blamed that on Brock Purdy, but it shouldn't have been, because Brock Purdy hit him in the hands, and he dropped it. Brock Purdy are making the throws to allow people to elevate their game, and they didn't do it enough yesterday. That's all. Just like Mahomes throughout the season was throwing passes to allow guys to elevate their game, but they didn't do it. They dropped them. Now, fast forward to the playoffs, they were catching them now. So he was able to help them elevate their game. Why? Because he's delivering the ball to them in situations where they are now catching the football. Before, they were dropping it. Brock Purdy's doing the same thing. He's doing the exact same thing, but different. You know, if he's a first-round pick, the way he played, people are calling him great. I will almost guarantee you everything I have. If he plays the way he played this season, and he was a first or second-round pick, we will be considering him one of the greats in the National Football League right now. It'll be a different narrative.
We'll catch up with TD coming up next. Caroline, Willie, D. Mays. Tune in to Robbie and Rex Road tomorrow morning from 6 to 9 a.m. on 102.5 The Game for details on how you could win tickets to see Kenny Chesney and Zach Brown Band at Nissan Stadium on August 3rd. Caroline, Willie, D. Mace, 1025, 1063, The Game and The Game Nashville app. We are streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every single day. The Chiefs get the win in overtime, their third Super Bowl in 5 years. Joining us now to break it all down is TD. Teron Davenport is brought to you by ESPN Bet Sportsbook. TD, appreciate you for joining us. We initially kicked off the show today with when kind of debating Kyle Shanahan's decision to receive in overtime. Do you think that was the right move, or do you think that Kyle Shanahan cost his team the Super Bowl by electing to receive and not defer in overtime?
No, I definitely don't think he cost his team the Super Bowl by electing to receive. I mean, after all, the defense got on the field and they gave up a touchdown. That wasn't Kyle Shanahan on the field doing that. So I won't fault him for that. I think the confidence that he showed was, hey, look, we're going to get the ball and we're going to score a touchdown, and then we'll put it on them to figure out what they want to do. I actually like that. I don't think he, cost his team the game at all.
What about Brock Purdy? There's a big mixed bag on the perception of Brock Purdy. He's just elevated by the pieces around him, and some other side says, look, his numbers are elite. His numbers are up there with some of the best in the NFL. What's your perception of Brock Purdy, and maybe how was that changed last night? How was that solidified last night? And maybe what's the message about quarterbacks around the rest of the league based off of your evaluation of Brock Purdy?
Yeah, one thing about numbers and statistics and all of that, I like them, but I don't use them to just outright prove a point, because you could skew numbers in a variety of different ways to prove a point that you're trying to establish. So, yeah, his numbers are great. You can't get around it. And the thing that this year that I've really appreciated about Brock Purdy is what he does off schedule, right? Before it was always, okay, he keeps things on schedule. He makes sure that, if this isn't there, he's going there and just throwing through the progressions, et cetera. But this year I've noticed where he's getting out on the move. Like, you look at that early completion he had to juice check on the first drive, right? He rolled out, the pocket got a little dirty, he moved out, and then he found him for a first down. I think that's the thing with Purdy that he's doing. I think this team can win with him, but it's just when you go against an otherworldly talent like Patrick Mahomes, unless you have a Lamar Jackson, a Josh Allen, a Joe Burrow, you don't really have a chance, just because now his defense is so good also, in addition, and that gives that offense time to figure things out and score later in the game like they did in what you saw last night.
We'll talk with Teron Davenport discussing last night's game, Super Bowl, the Chiefs and the 49ers. What does this because we've talked about Patrick Mahomes and what this does for his legacy. Obviously, Andy Reid, whether it be a play caller or a head coach, I think he's one of the greatest. But when you're talking about Kyle Shanahan, I'm not going to put the debacle in Atlanta on him because he wasn't the head coach. I know he was the offensive coordinator, but not the head coach. But right. What does this do for him in regards to, now this is the second time since he's been the head coach that he has had an opportunity to win a Super Bowl where he's been up by 10 points or more, and at each opportunity he's had, he's failed. So what does this do for him moving forward?
Yeah, that's a tough spot to be in, right? To be up like that, and especially the Atlanta one against the Patriots. But look, it's not a bad thing to. You can't hang your head so far when you're losing to Tom Brady, when you're losing to Patrick Mahomes twice. Now, obviously, no one wants to lose, but I'm not going to use that to say, okay, he's not a good coach or his legacy is tainted. He still had to get there, and collectively they've built a really, really good roster. And he's known as one of the best play callers in the league. And you look at his legacy as far as coaches who, have worked with him. So I definitely still think that he's one of the top guys. Is he, Bill Walsh-like genius level? Don Coryell? No, but you still have to respect him as one of the best minds offensively in the game right now.
Now, before Kittles, I know Kittles went out. I think it was with a shoulder injury, but he ended up coming back in the game. Do you think it was more so of Kansas City and what they did because if you look at it on the other side, San Fran did the same thing with Kelsey in the first half. They pretty much shut him down. They bumped him around, made it difficult for him. Do you think it was more so that why they couldn't get Kittles involved in the game the way they wanted to or should have?
Yeah, I think, they got outstanding linebacker play, too, and their safeties. Nick Bolton, 32, was all over the place, whether it was coverage or coming up to help against the run or even, getting pressure on the quarterback. So that helped them. And collectively, you look, Deebo Samuel was pretty quiet in this game. Mm-hmm. I know he had the hamstring, but even before that, you didn't really see much from him. Trent McDuffie, the corner out of Washington, I think a star was born last night. He's always been a really good corner, but the way that he played last night was outstanding, and he's someone that you have to start recognizing as a legit corner. And obviously, L'Jarius Sneed, on the other side is a baller too. So I think just collectively that defense and the pressure, Chris Jones, he showed the value of interior guys, and then you see why these guys that get this pressure from the inside, are getting these $90+ million deals. But then also look at how they moved him around. So it was a combination of all of that. It wasn't just like, hey, Justin Reed on Kittle, and that's what made it happen. It was just collectively that defense was playing, and this was while the Chiefs' offense wasn't doing much for them.
Teron, if just throwing out this statement, how would you answer this? What do you think the Titans, if they're watching, Callahan on down the line, you watch that Super Bowl, what's the number one thing you take out of it and learn and say, okay, this is where we need to go with all this?
I think you learn that, hey, when there are opportunities to put the game away, you 1,000% have to do it. And there were times when that Chiefs offense was struggling and the 49ers, they weren't able to come away with points, after the defense had a stop. So I think you got to look at the desperation. You have to figure out ways to score points. Now, I ain't talking about field goals. You got to score touchdowns, if you're going to beat that team. Because if you catch that offense on a down moment or down portion of the game, you got to capitalize.
As I was watching it, I really thought I was watching a really deep chess match that I certainly didn't understand on the level that the two coordinators were going. But you had two great defenses loaded with talent, two good coordinators, and you had these two great play callers. And, of course, you've got this new Titans brain trust that is a derivative of the Shanahan, right? So I'm thinking, what as a Titan fan, can I get excited about maybe getting on that level because I saw a lot going on there. Tony Romo at times, he's got flaws like everybody else does. He takes criticism when you're up that high, but he does a pretty good job of pointing out what they're looking at, like that final touchdown. And I'm just thinking, man, are they taking this thing to another level, the Titans, with their ability to win that chess match?
Yeah, they're going to have to. And I tell you, it's nice for the Chiefs, right, to have a little trump card in the bag, right? For whatever reason, when they use that motion and they make the DBs have to, figure out who's going where and doing what, it just has always worked. You saw it 3 times, right? Twice in the Super Bowl last year, once in this one, where it's just that motion, it confuses. So you have that. I think defensively, the Chiefs did a good job of disguising defenses and things too. Right, again, with McDuffie, there were times where they showed bracket coverage, and he came off of it, and it confused Purdy a bit. It made him tuck the ball and have to, reset. So I think you look at what the Titans are doing. Denard Wilson, I think, is going to be a really, really good defensive coordinator because I like the roots. Greg Williams, right? You look at him. You look at Todd Bowles. Like, these are guys that clearly have established they like to attack and dictate to offenses what they're going to be not going to be able to do. And I like that. So I think you have that. Being able to retain Chris Harris is good for the DBs. Obviously, you look at the veterans in Frank Bush and Steve Jackson. I think they've established a really good group. I'm not going to say really, really good, but I think they've established a solid group. It's still, we have to see how it works. But I like what they've done. It's just going to be, you need the players, right? And that's something that Rand Carthon and the crew, they're going to have to get that put in place.
TD, Teron Davenport is with us. TD, I know that Titans fans are feeling probably even more discouraged than they probably already were. That to get to the Super Bowl, not only do you have to go through Patrick Mahomes, but if it's not Patrick Mahomes, it's Joe Burrow or it's Lamar Jackson or it's Justin Herbert or it's this gauntlet of quarterbacks in the AFC. But really, the class of those quarterbacks is Patrick Mahomes. What would maybe your message be to Titans fans?
Get in touch with Jesus. You're going to have to pray. Man, that dog Patrick Mahomes, and as long as he has Travis Kelce in there too, and you see Rashee Rice, he's blossoming also. So It's just, man, it's a huge challenge and a group of talent that they have. So, yeah, it's going to be tough, man. You just got to hope that you can match some of that talent. I don't obviously think you can match it at quarterback and tight end, but if you could be strong in other areas, you may have a chance.
Could the 49ers be the blueprint for teams that don't have that elite quarterback?
Yeah, that's a great point. They can be, because you see, they come together like Voltron. They have strength in all aspects of the game, especially when you look at having playmakers. They have a collection of play. Brandon Ayuk is quietly one of the best route runners and most efficient receivers in the league, but a lot of people don't even know how to pronounce the man's name, let alone describe how he plays. So I would say yes, and that group of defensive guys that they got. Because remember, Hufanga he wasn't even playing. He's one of the best secondary players. You know what I mean? He wasn't even because he had the the ACL and MCL injury. So yeah, I would say you have to form a bunch of group of talent to go against somebody as tough as Mahomes.
TD is with us, and kind of keeping that in mind, what Will Levis is or can be. That's still unwritten. We still don't really know what the true ceiling of Will Levis can be. So could that potentially be the blueprint for the Tennessee Titans of putting pieces around the quarterback? And if so, now that today is the first day officially of the offseason, based off of what we've seen from the 49ers and how they've built that team, what should the Titans' priorities be this offseason?
Well, the priority is you have to add game-changing players. And you look at this roster, there aren't a lot of them. Mm-hmm. I think you further develop Tajay Spears because he's underrated as a game changer. And you see when he touches the ball, rarely does the first person bring him down. It's electric, and he's capable of scoring from anywhere on the field. I hope Jared Stillman's listening because I know he doesn't believe in Spears' playmaking ability, but you watch the game and you see it, So I think you add those types of players, right? DeAndre Hopkins. You get that talent and pull that out of a guy like Treylon Burks, as long as he can stay healthy, right? You build around Jeffrey Simmons. You bring Danico Autry back. You got Harold Landry there. Bring Azeez Al-Shire back. You figure out what to do in the secondary. Those are all things they have to do. But the long story short is you have to add guys that can make game-impacting plays. When it's time to do it, they're going to rise to the occasion. And that's what they've lacked as a group for the last couple of years.
All right, TD, this is one thing that I was kind of throwing around last night as I was watching the game. If the 49ers would have won, would Juwan Jennings have been MVP?
It's very possible. Or Chris Conley, I don't know whatever he ate before the game, he better eat often because the way he was playing on special teams, he you could have had a special teamer be, the first one since Desmond Howard back in the day?
Even Jake Moody, the kicker.
Yeah, you had 2 record-setting kicks last night, field goals. How about that? Jake Moody set the record with 55, and Harrison Butker said, hey, man, hold on a minute, and he set the record with 57. That game was just fun to watch, man. I have to say it was fun to watch.
It was such a fun game to watch. Mm-hmm. Usher was also fun to watch. TD, what were your thoughts on the halftime show?
Hey, listen, my girlfriend's going to be mad at me, but, man, Alicia Keys, Lord have mercy. That's all
she is unbelievable.
Period.
Man, that whole show was unbelievable, I think. Just the way they put it all together. And, it was just, to me, it was good from the standpoint of just pure entertainment, by several different artists. And then it's sort of all ending, with Alicia Keys and whatnot. So she started off a little shaky, but then kind of picked it up.
I thought the roller skating was unbelievable. Like that was really amazing. Yeah. unexpected.
That was you back in the day, Willie?
No. I was the worst. I did go.
Exactly.
I'm going to tell you, I went to a couple birthday parties, and, man, it was ugly for me. It was ugly. I was awful. I was a great floor hockey player, and then there was like, you got to a certain grade where I lived in New York, and you started going out. Let's go to roller hockey. I was like, nope. Win flag football, or let's go to basketball. Like, I ain't getting on those roller skates.
Oh, man.
Yeah, anything that involves wheels on your feet and anything that involves balance is always a little tricky. TD, last one for me. I think right now where we are, Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback to ever play the game. After Patrick Mahomes' third Super Bowl in just 5 years, where does that put him in the all-time list? And also keep in mind that his story's not over.
That's the crazy part. His story's not over.
He's not even.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So there's a lot more to come. I have to put him. I mean, you could argue, right? Because Montana was just so cool and calm under pressure and just surgical. You know what I mean? But then you got John Elway, and it's like, wow. He was able to run with the ball in addition to throwing it and doing everything that he did. But I don't know. I think I'll say this. Patrick Mahomes, without a doubt, is top 5. Mm-hmm. But he, in my opinion, is the most talented quarterback to ever throw the ball, to ever play the position. Because you look, he brings that
over
ability.
Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah, you know why? Because you go back to 2019, right? That AFC Championship game and the way he had that run. Like, Aaron Rodgers doesn't do that. You know what I mean? And then he also does what Aaron Rodgers does as far as like being able to throw across his body, or in some cases behind his back, like whatever he does. Like, he just, in my opinion, he's the most talented quarterback to ever play the position, man. Now, the best thrower, in my opinion, and don't argue with me, argue with somebody else. But I don't think anybody ever threw that ball like Warren Moon. And you know the sound every time. You know what I mean? So I think Patrick Mahomes is the most talented ever, though.
It's hard for me to disagree.
It's hard to argue with it.
I mean, it feels like recency bias.
Creativity, the arm angles, the
off schedule,
the off schedule. The ability to throw the ball away when you're like, that's intercepted. But a wobbly one in the middle of the field, but it just seems to never get intercepted. But these
are all the things that we were saying about Aaron Rodgers.
But not like that. Not like nobody's ever thrown the ball like
a young Aaron Rodgers.
Not like that.
We were saying the same. Like, we've never seen anyone that, and that's why actually, that's why the question was brought up. Like, because we have seen guys in their prime, and there's only been a handful, probably not even a handful, maybe 2 or 3 guys that are just their ability, what they can do with the football, whether it's Dan Marino, Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes now.
Peyton
Manning. Not even Peyton Manning. I'm talking about just because Peyton was a statue, but Peyton, right, from a mental standpoint, I think Peyton was better than everybody. But from a physical standpoint, Peyton could only do so much, even when he was younger. But when you look at those 4 quarterbacks that I named, it's like when they were playing, we were all saying, damn, we've never seen anything like this before. And then fast forward 10 years, it's like we never seen anything. I think they all sort of do some of the same things, but I think we look at them. I would love to see Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers both playing at their prime, how that would look.
Rodgers is close. Rodgers
only has 1.
I know he only has 1.
I'm just talking about the skill set.
Yeah, that's all I'm talking about, the skill set to throw the football.
Like throwing it left-handed. Throwing it left-handed. Like there's things that Mahomes does that I think even one-ups Rodgers. And Rodgers was probably the next best.
Look at the one where he was running and stopped on the dime and just kind of like shot a jumper with the ball.
Right.
to Kelsey for the touchdown. Like that's to have the awareness to do it's stupid. It's not even fair, man. That's the way I look at it.
It's
like throwing the ball like he's turning a double play, underhand
the
almost.
Shortstop movements.
And with a purpose, not hot dogging.
Passes.
Yeah, look, basketball. Like he's got a different realm that he goes into, I think. To go with the great play calling and all the things that Reed brings to the table. It's amazing to watch.
It's unfair. It's unfair. TD, appreciate you for stopping by. Tell us about ESPN Bet.
Oh yeah, definitely. And last night I bet ESPN Bet was on fire, so that was a good thing. But it's now live in Tennessee, and it's the official sports book of ESPN. The only place to find daily exclusive offers with your favorite ESPN personalities and shows. If you haven't signed up, make sure you sign up today. If you're a new user, you get $100 in bonus bets for making any sportsbook bet, and you can find all of your markets, whether it's in-game wagering, cross-sport parlays that you could do. The New Orleans Pelicans and the Nashville Predators. You can combine them. You could do teasers and all the props you can handle. That's ESPN Bet. Download today. What a play. Of course, you must be 21 or older and in Tennessee. For gambling problems or support, call or text TN Redline at 800-889-9789. And as always, terms and conditions apply. Get the details on the app.
TD, appreciate you for stopping by. You are the very best, and we'll catch up with you next week.
Thank you. Appreciate talking to you guys. Hey, Willie.
Pitchers and catchers?
That's right.
There you go.
Say it. You knew where I was
on the
going.
same wavelength, my man.
Yes, sir. All right, now.
All right, TD, appreciate you.
LGM.
You Mets fans over here.
Let's go Mets.
It is very funny how we are outnumbered on the program here.
That's right.
With Mets fans
It's the only place in the city where that happens.
Right, exactly. All right.
Yes, right on cue. Oh, yes. On to baseball. Let's go.
Yeah, now that football's over, we finally get to focus on the New York Mets.
Gotta love it.
All right, coming up next, probably the most viral moment from the game last night, and it didn't even happen on the field, it happened on the sidelines. Awfully controversial. I want to get D-Mace's thoughts on that. We'll get into that coming up next, and of course, your thoughts as well. 615-737-1025. Caroline, Willie, D-Mace, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
I put so much trust in him and how he goes about being a head coach, as a leader. He's one of the best leaders in the game, man. And I can't thank him enough for giving me opportunities year in, year out. And this third one, or this second one back-to-back, the third one overall, baby, this one's for him, no doubt.
That was Travis Kelce post-game on his coach, Andy Reid. And so it's, you win the game, everyone's happy, credit to him, love him, but it was not all love from Travis Kelce to Andy Reid throughout the entirety of the night. So this was earlier in the game. Isaiah Pacheco fumbles. The Chiefs lose the ball. And Travis Kelce goes absolutely buck wild, screaming at Andy Reid and gives him a little bit of a shove. Now, this was a viral moment in the game last night. We even A.J. Brown chimed in. Darren Bates chimed in. And I also did hear that A.J. Brown Twitter account was not a real Twitter account. I thought it was. I don't know. But essentially, the sentiment from some players and former players was, look, if I did that, that won't fly. Like, I can't do that kind of thing. What was your impression and takeaway from that moment from Travis Kelce?
It wasn't cool.
Unacceptable.
It wasn't. Listen, and this is where it's like you listen to people and they tie themselves in knots trying not to, say what's wrong is wrong. It's like that was there's one thing with getting heated on the field. Everybody understands it. It's a highly competitive sport. A lot of, emotions that are involved in the sport and everything else. There's one thing to go up and yell, like, get me the ball, whatever it is, get me the, because I've done it.
Yeah.
I've seen guys do it. Get me the ball. Like, that's one. That's pushing it. Like, you screaming, everybody in the building, everybody on television sees it. That's one. And typically, that's the line players get to. Just that, yelling and screaming, they throw their helmet as they're going to the sideline.
Look, I get it.
I get that part. I understand it. Just about every player has done it. Tom Brady has done it. Just about everybody, player. But the minute you go up into your coach and you push him or nut the way he did it, that's unacceptable. To me, listen, San Fran was doing a good job on you. Did you want the football? I'm sure you wanted the football. Did they want to get you the football? I'm sure they wanted to get you the football. But they just couldn't because of what San Fran was doing to you in regards to pushing you around, throwing you off a little bit, throwing the timing off. But then you don't get that upset, and because if that was any other player not named Travis Kelce, they would have been going off. Commentators, everybody, the next day, they would have been going off because that is unacceptable. If a coach does that to a player, everybody's screaming for the coach to be fired. He shouldn't put his hands on a player. He shouldn't bump a player. When you, Travis Kelce, does that, it's the same thing with you. It's unacceptable. I don't want to hear about how good you are. You're a great player. I get that. But there's no excuse to do what you did in front of everybody. Like, you couldn't control your emotions that much there's one thing with yelling, throwing your helmet as you're walking off. Everybody understands Travis is upset because he's not getting the ball. Now we need to get him the ball. And typically it gets you the ball. But the minute you go up to the head coach and you bump him like that purposely, there's no place like that in no sport. To me, Travis Kelce is this guy. He wants the spotlight every moment. He wants it. When he's not getting it, he's going to do something or say something to make sure he does. Just watch Travis Kelce. Watch him. When he's not getting it, he makes sure he then gets it. Just like he got on the podium. He has to have his moment. Like, he has to make sure out of everybody else, he has to have his moment. And that was a situation where Travis had to have his moment. Like, it's the biggest. He was thinking about all of this stuff. Super Bowl, this, that, all this other stuff.
Think so?
I believe that's what he was thinking about. I got to get the ball. Not looking at it as if, dude, we're only down, what was it, 10-3.
It was early in the game.
Yeah, it was early in the game, 10-3, something like that. The game's still in our reach to win. We got the best quarterback, so let's just calm down. I can be upset and walk away, but I can't be upset and then bump my coach and get up in my coach's face. Because now when you do that, who's to say somebody else can't? They feel they can do that too, and they can write it off or check it off as it was just my emotions, and this is a game of emotions, and this and that. Well, every player can say that, but every player shouldn't do what you did.
I never watched the pregame for the Super Bowl, especially. But for some reason, we had it on our TV. I was just doing different things, and I happened to see a little feature on Andy Reid being interviewed by Bill Cowher, and he asked about Kelsey, and it was so interesting. Mm-hmm. I just happened to catch this, and Reid was talking about Kelsey's temper. Mm-hmm. And that was the theme that's where he went in the interview. He said, I've had to sort of get him to channel it differently. And then ironically, that's when this happens, right? And I was thinking, wow, that's exactly what he was talking about, because he was talking about his improvement as a player over time, that he's gotten better being able to corral those emotions a little better. He didn't corral them there. Another thing that I found interesting as an announcer, who is in a play-by-play position, there was a lot of criticism on Twitter of how Jim Nantz and Tony Romo kind of downplayed it.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Exactly, and that's what I was saying.
They sort of, let's put the throw the curtain down. Let's not talk about that. Let's get back to something else. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing about the Super Bowl. There's always a million other things going on that you can go to. But I think it could have been made a bigger deal if Nantz and Romo would have shown a little bit of astonishment, saying, wow, you don't see that happening, especially with a superstar player. That's your superstar player doing that to the coach. You never see that in any game. Forget about the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. If they had done that, can you imagine what the reaction would have been? And would they have if it wasn't a star player? If
it wasn't Travis Kelce, I'm sure they would have made a bigger deal about that.
So I thought that was an interesting sort of broadcasting 101. What would you do if you were in the booth, right? They downplayed it.
And I don't think
you got to try to hit the right.
Downplay that.
You try to hit the right level. You don't overreact. Like there was one time, remember Randy Moss did the fake mooning of the Packers fans, and Tony Dungy did a really good job of sort of putting it in context that the Packers fans moon the other team when they come in on the bus, and so he was kind of doing it back. And obviously Joe Buck wasn't aware of that, and he made it out to be like the worst thing anybody's ever done. But because he went nuts, I think that they suspended Randy Moss, or no, they fined Randy Moss like $10,000 for that. Like I think he played it up so much, maybe more than he should have. But that's the tricky part when you're in that booth and it's real time. You don't have this time to sit there, guys. What should we say about this? Like it's in the moment. What are we saying?
No,
how do we address it?
Yeah. That's hard. They're in a really difficult position.
Yeah,
and you don't want to make the game about that. But when you have a player like Travis Kelce, who let's be honest, he's now transcending football. Like he has become a superstar with a coach as revered and well respected as Andy Reid. And I don't even care who it is. I don't care if you're no name tight end with first year head coach. Making physical contact, a player making physical contact with a coach, unacceptable. Way too far. Yelling and screaming and being upset, letting them know that you're mad. I get it. Everyone does it. We're not going to stop it. Teammates, Rick Neuheisel was getting on to you for doing that same thing because you work hard and you demand the football. You want to make plays. And, the testosterone is high and the tensions are high. The nerves are high. Emotions are going to be involved. Your emotions are really strong in that time. So I have no problem with yelling, but the physical contact, abso-freaking-lutely not.
Agree 100%. Here's another distinction I make, D-Mace. It's different when the head coach is out on the sideline and running the team as opposed to on the bench near the water coolers and stuff.
Yeah.
To me, that's a whole different category. Like, you can get heated, but most of the time when you see guys get heated, it's back. The cameras still may pick up on it, but and a lot of times it's a coordinator or a position coach that you're jawing with, but that's a little more accepted than I'm walking out in front of everybody on the sideline, almost in bounds, and bumping the coach. That's a high level.
Like
that's a different. You never see it. You never see that.
Your first thought was to go, and again, because Andy Reid is the play caller, I get it. You're upset because usually you're upset with the offensive coordinator. But you can't be upset at Nagy because he's not calling the plays. Andy Reid is calling the plays. So you go up to Andy Reid. Again, I can understand you yelling, maybe throw your hammer toward the sideline and get peeved. I get all of that. It happens every game. They don't show it every game, but it happens every game. But to physically make contact with your coach, any coach, not just the head coach, I mean, any coach, you got to have a level of respect. And I don't want to hear people say, well, he does. No, you don't respect him if you indeed do that. You respect him when things are going well and you're getting the ball. But when you're not getting the ball and things seem not be going well, then you lose all respect, because that doesn't show me that you respect your coach that much in regards to that. There's been times where I've been just been angry, like upset, but I never once thought, let me go approach my offensive coordinator or my head coach and bump them or get in their face like that. I've been upset, and it's been walking off the field away from them, because I know if I make that left going toward them, nothing good is going to happen. So let me walk the other way and yell and scream going the other way, because by the time I get to the bench, I'm cool, or somebody comes over and say, hey, calm down, we'll be fine. And then I'm like, okay, now sit down. But I ain't running up to my OC or my head coach and bumping them. There's no excuse, and nobody can tell me or convince me that, oh, it's okay, it's just the heat of the moment, just the testosterone. I get all of that. But even in that, you got to have some sense of, okay, this is what I shouldn't be doing, because one, it's the soup. One, you shouldn't do it anyway, but it's the soup. Everybody's watching every move that you, Travis Kelce. They're watching you more than they're watching the quarterback. Realistically, they're watching you because they know when you do something, what are they going to do? Pan upstairs to Taylor Swift. So everybody's watching you. If you do a great play, they're going to pan up to Taylor Swift. Yeah. So the eyes are on you at all times. You can't then go up to your coach and do that and then think that everything is fine. Everything is fine. No, if I'm Andy, I'm bringing him into the office like, dude, don't you ever in your life do that again, because I will cut you the minute I can. You will be gone. Don't do that. I can understand you being mad and throwing your helmet and having a hissy fit. I get all of that. But don't you ever step inside my space, because I don't do that to you.
It's crossing a line.
Exactly.
Scott is on the line with a thought on Andy Reid and Travis Kelce. What's up, Scott?
Hey, no, I'm just sitting here listening to y'all, and obviously nobody said nothing about what Andy Reid said. He said it was fine. He said he just caught me a little off balance, and that's why I moved like I did. But I don't know why y'all are not talking about that. I mean, it sounds like you're trying to get the ratings up, but if they have a relationship where they can push on each other and have a good time, and Andy Reid's okay with it, then
okay, hold on. Okay, for a second.
And that's what I saw. I saw the interview that said it was fine. So y'all are just trying to just stir this up. Sounds like to me. So I'm gonna go back to 104. So
Scott, hold on, Scott, stay on the phone for a second. Did they look like they were having fun? Did that look like fun to you? Yes or no?
He hung up.
Okay. Scott, I know you're still listening. So did that seem like fun to you? It didn't. And Andy's not going to say anything contrary to what you heard. He's not going to. Why? Because he understands, I need not make this a big story. I didn't appreciate that he did that, but I'm not then going to dump down again and make this a bigger story. That's why I said I would have brought Travis Kelce in my office and say, hey, listen, don't you do that again. For me, and I'm going to say this, Scott, you must never play a lick of sports, and I'm going to assume that, because if you let say if your son's a star athlete, and he comes over and he's yelling and screaming, and he bumps the coach, I hope you ain't going to tell your son, don't worry about it, it was just fun, don't worry about it, go on about your business. No, I'm pretty sure you as a parent, if you are, you would tell your son, don't you ever do that again. If you do that again, then I will come on the sideline, and I will do something to you. Don't you ever get in your coach's face or bump him like that in your life, because that's a sign of disrespect. It is, to me.
I do find it interesting, too. What if the Chiefs lost?
Oh, it would have been a huge story.
Oh, man. It'd be the number one story.
Yes.
I think so, too.
Yeah.
Yes.
That it would be as Andy Reid losing the locker room. It's going to be tensions in Kansas
Especially if
City.
it had been, maybe not overtime, but if they'd have lost to, 20-10 or something like that, they never really got going. You better believe that'd be a massive
been a huge story.
And it wouldn't matter what Andy Reid said. To me, it doesn't really matter what he said. That doesn't change. And Andy Reid, is easygoing. You knew that's exactly what he was going to say, but it still doesn't make it right. That was wrong of Travis Kelce to do that. I can't believe that he would put his coach and his team in that position.
To the point, if you're just trying to make this a big deal, first and foremost, this is Nashville. It's not Kansas City radio. Second of all, it is a big deal.
It is.
It
happened.
Decide what is a big deal, what isn't.
Your star
everyone
player
across America is talking about
your
that right
star
now.
player goes at your coach. In what world
deal.
that's not a big deal?
You know what kind of message that sends? It sends that you're above the coach.
Exactly.
Well, I don't disagree with you. We have some more thoughts on this. We'll get to those coming up next. Caroline, Willie, D. Mace, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
All right, bottom line, as I've been telling you, Loan Pronto has a couple different options to help you erase debt, take control of your finances in a more positive way. The two ways, number one, if you got stuck with a high interest rate mortgage rate in the past, right now Loan Pronto has a cash-out refinance rate of just 5.49%. That's a big drop, so you can save hundreds of dollars a month. The other way, if you've got a good mortgage rate that you've had from a long time ago, before the rates started going up, say it's in the 3s, you can still use Loan Pronto's Equity Express line of credit just to get the cash you need out of your home's equity and leave the primary mortgage intact. And then you can address your financial needs that way. Pay off the credit card bills, start a home improvement project. You've heard me talking about these things. So you've got a couple different ways that Loan Pronto can help you. All you've got to do is call Loan Pronto now and get the process started on a way to better financial footing. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780, or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, 5.49%, has 6.39% APR, subject to lender approval.
Yeah, he caught me off balance. I wasn't watching. Cheap shot, but that's all right. He did good. He was really coming over just put me in. I'll score. So that's really what it was. Well, I love that. I mean, it's not the first time. So I appreciate him.
All right, we got a lot of thoughts on Travis Kelce shoving Andy Reid in the Super Bowl yesterday, so we are right to your phones. Caroline, Willie, D. Mace, we are broadcasting live from the Spring Hill Heating and Cooling Game Nashville studios, keeping your home feeling comfortable all year round. Trey is on the line with a thought on Travis Kelce and Andy Reid. What's up, Trey?
Hey, good afternoon, guys. Hey, first of all, I want to apologize for Scotty. I'd like to be his big brother and talk to him, but that's uncalled for. But anyways, 104.5 is going to be talking about it. ESPN's going to be talking about it. Fox is going to be talking about it. It's all going to be talked about. So no matter what station he goes to, it's going to be out there that this was a problem. This is an issue. And honestly, I thought about this 2 years ago when I thought Andy Reid does not have control of this team besides a good mind, but he lets these players do. Belichick you wouldn't even get close to Bill Belichick. You wouldn't get close to Mike Vrabel on even running that trap. And, and that's just a respect thing. There's just gone too far. And when you're screaming, bumping, that's way too far for someone. But, hey, he's got a right coach because you know what? Hey, if you guys are winning, I don't care if you bump me. I don't care if you call me a dummy. I don't care if you call me a cheeseburger-eating man. They don't care. He ain't going to care. He's 66. I'll just keep calling plays. You make up these funky-looking plays for me. You win Super Bowls, and you can bump me all day long.
Thank you for your call, Trey.
How far that goes.
Thank you for your call. Appreciate it. I will say, he brings up Bill Belichick. Well, Tom Brady got into Bill O'Brien a lot. And Bill O'Brien has gotten into Mac Jones a lot. So just because it didn't happen with Bill doesn't mean it didn't happen. The difference for me is physically touching the coach.
Yeah.
That's a little bit too far.
And right on the sideline as opposed to behind the scenes a little bit.
Yeah. Joseph is on the line with a thought on Travis Kelce and Andy Reid. What's up, Joseph?
Hey, and I'm saying this as a lifelong Eagles fan who really does love both Andy and the Kelce brothers. But, yeah, that was unacceptable. And it's a matter of perception here, right? When you talk about Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, the reason why we care about it is because we hold them to a much higher standard. Same thing with Montana and Walsh, right? Landry, whoever you say, right? The fact of the matter is if you want to be among the elites in the game, if you want to be that person that everyone looks to as that guy, you have to hold yourself to a different standard. And is it fair? No. There's dysfunctional organizations all across the NFL that do this, week in, week out during the regular season. But at the end of the day, you try to be the guy, you got to hold yourself to a higher standard.
Yep, great point. Appreciate your call, Joseph. Yeah, thanks for calling in. Look, all eyes are on you.
Yeah, again, it was uncalled for. I'm sure it's a moment that, Kelce, if he looks back on it, if he looks back on this and don't think that he did anything wrong, then we got a problem. But I tend to think that once he looks back on it, he probably, man, I shouldn't have did that. And you can't do that on that stage.
Jared says it's just sideline stuff, and this is football, and he's coming up next. We'll be back tomorrow morning at 11 a.m.
No, it's not just football. It's more than football. You don't do that.
I've
never seen someone get that mad and run up on Jeff Fisher like that and bump Jeff Fisher, okay? So you just can't say it's football. I've never seen nobody do that to Mike Tomlin, Bill Belichick, name any other head coach. And I've been around some very feisty players. I was one myself. But it's not just football, so I'm not going to let you, Jared, get away with that. It's just football. I'm saying it because I played it. Players don't think that way. When you bump a coach, that's a no-no. You don't do that because why? You don't want him doing that to you. You don't want nobody doing that to you. So you don't then break protocol or get in my space. It's not about, it's football. It's testosterone. You're just making an excuse for him. That's all. Say that. Just say, I'm making an excuse for him because I like him. Just say that. Because if that was, I don't know, if that was Kadarius Toney.
If that was Antonio Brown.
They would have been screaming, get him out of the league, please. So why not? I'm not saying kick him out of the league. I'm just saying it's okay to call wrong, people. It's okay to do that. Again, you're the guy or the parent. Your kid is messing up in school, and you say, "Oh, it's everybody's fault except my kids." No, it's your kid's fault. He's damn bad. Okay, Call a spade a spade. That's how I was brought up. Whether it's your mama or your friend, call a spade, and then you move on from it.
That's going to do it for us today. We'll be back tomorrow at 11 a.m. Stillman and Company is up next.
Be love and love on your people. Peace.